Ba 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 ba. First Monday stream that I've been able to do in like a month. Oh my god, dude. Oh my god, dude. And I know exactly why. Going through capitalism on the weekend, man. Like, it's just like a shit storm. I know, Cotton. How are you doing? Were you just sitting there? Were you guys just sitting there waiting? Just waiting? Just like, I like start streaming, and you're like, dook. I'm happy. Makes me happy. I'm so grateful that you're here. Hi, Anemone. How are you? I hope you're doing well out in the world. Oh, worked today, so this is gonna be. I'm gonna start calling Monday streams the sleepy stream. So I'm gonna call it sleep stream. Kaya, good to see you. Oh, coming in hot, Kaya. Kaya, the pissed off Canadian, living up to the namesake. Oh my God. John, you are a beacon of light in a sea of darkness. What a beautiful thing you just said, Anemone. Oh my God. What a great way to start the stream. That's so beautiful. Oh, that's so lovely. Isn't that nice? That's because that's what I'm trying to be. You know, that's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to, I'm trying to get away from the like outrage culture. You know, like we're all like, everything's outrage. We're all supposed to be outraged. And I mean, there's plenty to be outraged about, but I worry that our outrage is blinding us to what is actually going on. You know, that everything is just so like, bah, bah, all the time that we can't really take a step back and analyze what's actually happening. I was just about to talk about this Liga DZ. Hey, John, what do you think of the compromise Kupi has reached right now? I think, okay, here's the series of events. You tell me what you think of this. So, the Ford administration not really giving the Kupi workers a good deal, right? Not really negotiating very strongly. Kupi has not really received a wage increase, just like everybody else hasn't really received a wage increase in like fucking 20 years, right? Getting like a 1.5% increase every single year while inflation is purposefully targeted at 2%. And then what with inflation at like 10% now, just destroying everybody, right? So nobody's gotten a wage increase. Nobody's gotten a raise their entire lives. Everything's totally fucked, and everybody knows it. And so Kupi, they get together and they say, you know what? We're going to go on strike. We're calling a strike, right? So they call the strike. It's like overwhelming. It's like 97%. Literally all of their membership is just like, absolutely. Yeah, everybody's got to go on strike. And so they call for strike. Ford passes fascist legislation, right? Basically just does a fascism and says, we're going to use the notwithstanding clause. That'll show you. Right? And of course, in the midst of using this notwithstanding clause, which clogs up the media with news about it because it's overwhelmingly fascist, Doug Ford just starts quietly passing legislation to destroy the Green Belt. Right? So he uses this opportunity as an absolute cover to pass eco-fascist legislation to destroy the Green Belt, something he explicitly promised he wouldn't do, but since when does Doug Ford give a fuck what comes out of his mouth? He doesn't give a shit. He's a fascist and an abuser, right? And his tactics are very abusive. So now that he's done a fascism, he stands up and he says, okay, everybody, I'll stop doing a fascism if you stop striking. To which Kupi goes, yeah, that sounds good. We defeated fascism. But you were going on strike anyway. You were going on strike before he declared the notwithstanding clause. You were going on strike before that. So now you're literally ending your strike. You're literally ending your strike and going back to where you started. Right? And now what these guys are going to end up with is like a 4% increase. Like that's what's going to happen. that they're going to go back to the table. So Doug Ford's plan worked completely. Their strategy has been completely successful. They have completely bamboozled the Kupi people. They've conned them into believing that ending their strike, giving up this fascist plan is worth relinquishing their strike. And then we'll sit down at the table and they'll be like, oh, 4% increase is more than reasonable, unless you'd like me to do a fascism again. I think that this is an utter failure on Kupi. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the leadership was just bought, straight up. I wouldn't be surprised by that even a little. I think that if I was in that union, I would be furious, because they essentially ended, like, it worked. Doug Ford declared the notwithstanding clause, and now is saying, okay, I won't do that if you end the strike. And they go, okay. So Doug Ford gets everything he wants. Like, Doug Ford gets everything he wants. It's just pretty straightforward. Like, he doesn't give a fuck about, like, polling opinions or any of that shit. Like, he doesn't care. Like, how has Ford been punished at all? And when they sit down at the bargaining table, Doug Ford's going to give them a shitty deal, and their shitty leadership, that's obviously shitty, is going to take it. Like, I think it's absolutely moronic. And if I were the Kupi leadership, and Doug Ford said, I'll overturn this legislation if you end the strike, I'd be like, fuck you. Overturn the legislation and we will continue striking until you put a deal on the table that's worth ending our strike over. Like, the strike was not the negotiation. You understand? Like, the strike happened as a negotiation to leverage against the shitty treatment and the shitty wages. And then Ford successfully used it as a negotiating token and a leverage to overturn fascist legislation that he shouldn't have used in the first place. And so now he's given away absolutely nothing. He's gained everything. And now they're going to go back to the table and Doug Ford's going to give them a shitty deal. Like, it's just kind of embarrassing, frankly. My partner's mom, who is on assistance, can't afford food anymore. Yep. Welcome to Canada. Welcome to Canada. Like, we're collapsing. This is what a collapsing capitalist system looks like. It's as simple as that. And anybody who stands up and defends this system, you treat like a Nazi. As far as I'm concerned. You just spit at them. Like, they're as bad as a Nazi at this point. They sound like they're already celebrating. Who's they in that sentence, dude? Because, like, I genuinely think that Doug Ford just got everything he wanted. Like, what did he lose? What has he lost? Conton says, advice to all: take time to practice and do the things you're sure you actually like. Next week, my wife and I are going to Goth Night. Good for you. And I'm thinking that happiness is a practice and a muscle. Yeah, I think there's something to that. It's easy. I know I get caught in patterns. Like, I get caught in just, like, distractionary patterns. Right? I know for myself, like, one of the things that I'm happy that I'm starting to rebuild in my life is that I'm waking up in the morning and doing some yoga, doing some working out a little bit. And it's nothing, I'm not like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger P90Xing or anything, but like it's a beginning, it's a start, and I'm actually building it into my life a little bit more. And just accepting that, like, I can't just like wake up, get in the shower, walk out the door anymore. Like, I gotta actually, because I used to be much more physically active than I am now. Like, much more physically active than I am now. And COVID really blew up everything for me. And so now I'm rebuilding it, getting stronger by the day. Yeah, the green belt, right? That seems to have, like, come up and then just been swept away. What a perfect time for Ford to have betrayed the species, right? What a perfect time for him to have just done an eco-fascism on all of us and just been like, yeah, we'll just destroy the green belt, put some empty houses there that no one will live in, right? So just some shitty McMansions that we'll just slap up, like just a place for wealthy people to hoard their money, right? I mean, look who owns the majority of the land that comprises the green belt. Who does own the majority of the land in Ebony? I don't even know who owns it. Like, one would assume that it would, like, if there's important land that doesn't need to be, that shouldn't be developed, it should be owned by the government. It should be crowned land, right? But we live in a fascist society, so probably not the case. Did Koopy give in to pressure from the all my kids need to go back to school people? I mean, I hope not. We know that like 60%, yeah, most Ontarians, right? When the polls came out, 62% of correspondents believe the Ford government bears the most responsibility. Right? It's another reason why I look at the Koopy ending their strike and just being like, oh, lame. Like, oh, most of us were behind you, dude. Like that's what makes it extra pathetic in my view. I'm just like, most of us were just behind this idea that like 62% of us were sitting there being like, yeah, strike. It's Ford's fault, right? But apparently what Ford gets to do is when the negotiation begins, he gets to punch people in the face and then say, I'll stop punching you in the face if you stop defending yourself. And then they go, okay. That's straight up what I saw. That's straight up what I'm seeing. I'll stop punching you in the face if you stop defending yourself. That's basically what I'm seeing in front of me right now. Oh, even worse than Emily. She's an educational assistant. So she's not even on assistance. Like, she is an educational assistant. She can't get food anymore. Yeah. Like, again, same comment. Welcome to Canada. Work a full-time job at a respected, in a respected profession. Be poor. Right? The system's collapsing. It's getting very obvious. Same commentary. The people who are standing up and saying that capitalism is fine and who are defending capitalism are Nazis. Like, they want people to die in the streets. That's what they're arguing for. But black and white. Like, there's no nuance. It's not a nuanced argument. Right? The systems of power and the oligarchy are destroying the society on purpose in order to enrich themselves and abandon everybody and return us to feudalism. That's straight up what's happening. And they're going to scapegoat minorities, and they're going to scapegoat trans people, and they'll scapegoat everybody they can. Like, Doug Ford tried his ass off to pit the teachers against the parents, right? To a certain degree of success, right? Like, that's what fascists always are going to do. They're always going to pit groups against one another. It's a really, really good way to keep power. Right? Make sure that these two groups are fighting each other and just completely ignoring you. Right? I think the most successful version of this that I'm seeing in the culture today is the quote-unquote manosphere. Right? And the backlash against feminism that I'm seeing. That men and women are fighting with one another instead of blaming capitalism, the obvious culprit, for their problems. Right? That men and women are struggling to connect with one another. They're struggling to build relationships with one another. They're struggling to have sex. They're struggling to have children, right? And instead of going, man, the system of capital is really fucking us over, making everyone exhausted, not giving us enough time to actually get to know one another, live a life together, right? Giving us the freedom to actually connect with one another, to be meaningful with one another, right? Instead of any of that, the man looks at the woman and says, what's wrong with you? Can't you smile some more? Right? Like that kind of dumb shit. And it is like that. And to me, it's like, if we're not going to be able to see through the obvious pitting of men versus women, then there's like all kinds of things that we're not going to see through. Like when they start pitting us up against the Jews, right? Like people like Kanye do. Right? Like, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, Kanye's got a real good point. You know? There's going to be a ton of those people. Koopy strike was always a show. Where are you going to put 500,000 new immigrants? I was referring to the Kupi people making the speech, which sounded like they're celebrating as if this is over. Yeah, I mean, no. Like, has a deal been reached? No. Like, the Ford administration's going to be like, so here's the deal. I'm going to give you the same thing that we were going to give you before. Right? Strifey, I don't think I understand your comment, bud. Like, where are you going to put 500,000 new immigrants? What if I don't think I understand what you mean, dude. What are you talking about? It's great. The market is prime for buying in. My retirement count just jumped 3.2%. Yeah, exactly, dude. Right? Like, if you're rich, great. Good for you. If you're an investor, like, if your money is somewhere just sitting there, where are you going to put 500,000 new immigrants? I mean, I think that I think that there's two things going on with the spike in immigration that they're trying to put in. Like, the capitalists, like, I was just talking about scapegoating, right? Like, they need as many scapegoats as they can get. And immigrants have historically been a very effective scapegoat, right? So how do you make sure that there's lots of scapegoating going on? Get as many immigrants in as you possibly can, right? Don't even worry about where you're going to put them. And I also think that they're looking at the population decline stats that are coming out of the West, because the system has failed so catastrophically that we can't even, like, get replacement level population anymore. And they're like, okay, well, if we can't have kids, like, we're not having kids anymore because the system has failed so catastrophically, then we'll just get as many immigrants in as possible. Then after the purges, there'll still be some around, right? So it works on two levels. The Greenbelt. I don't doubt Ford lobbyist developers own all that land, but yeah. They're taking all the factory and chimney sweep jobs. Yeah. I mean, like, there's tons of space in Brampton, Bolton, Orangeville, Innisfil, Thunder Bay. Yeah, I mean, I do think that I think they want to destroy shit. I really do. Like, I just think that these guys are like, oh, here's like sacred space that we're not allowed to develop. We've got to destroy it as fast as possible. Like, I really do think that that's the case for some of these guys. That the reason why they want to destroy it is because they're being told that they can't. Like, that's all. Like, it's like a sexual fetish. Like, oh, I can't do it, then I must do it. Like, and they don't like being told no. Like really, like, what's the other reason? Because it's exactly as you say. Like, why go after the green belt at all? Like, what's the point? What does it achieve? Who does it help? What does it do? Right? It does absolutely nothing. And exactly, there's tons of space everywhere else that is not in this very special piece of land. Like, it doesn't need to be developed. It can just be left alone. And so why do they want to develop it? Because I think they're psychos. Like, I just think it's as simple as that they've been told that they can't, and so now they have to. Because you're not going to tell me what to do. Like, I'm going to destroy it because you think it's special. That's it. Like, that's it. And again, I'm just going to cycle back around. Like, I do not think that Kupi ending this strike is a win for them. Like, I don't think it's a win for them at all. I don't think it's a win for the movement. I don't think it's a win. I don't think it's a win, like, for their people. I don't think it's any of that. I think it's a total. I think it's a total give. It's a total give. Like, and they're all being like, yeah, Ford blinked. That's what I'm hearing a lot about. Yeah, Ford blinked. Blinked. What are you talking about? Ford got literally everything he wanted. Literally everything. Yeah, they just gave up. While the energy was swelling around them, while there's, like, movements and, like, there's literally still going to be a vote as to whether or not we're going to have a general strike, right? And so, I don't know. It seems to me like the fix is in. Seems to me like the leadership just got bought out, the way the leadership always gets bought out. Because union leadership is always pathetic, right? Just pathetic, weak people who literally are like, oh, I'm going to get an extra $2 an hour? Ah, yes, check mark, right? Like, Just a society of yes men. Hey, Mark, how you doing? It was a win to get the bill rescinded, but the strike should have gone on. No negotiation. Exactly. No. But that's just it, Mark. Like, the strike happened because of wages. Ford enacts the non-withstanding clause, right? Fascism, and now they're giving up the strike to get rid of the fascism. So, like, if I'm Doug Ford, I'm using the non-withstanding clause every single day. Like, I'm using it on every single issue, every single time. Like, if this is how they're going to react, like, oh, God, they're going on strike because they want their wages increased. Well, I'll use the non-withstanding clause, and then the strike will end, because I'll say I'll get rid of that if they stop striking. And then they'll agree to some bullshit, shitty deal, which is what's going to happen. Like, I think it's embarrassing. Like, I'm literally looking at the union being like, oh, what's the point of you then? Like, what's the point of these unions? Like, for real, what's the point of these unions? Like, I think it's like the biggest L possible. Like, they literally stopped striking and gained nothing. Like, nothing. Literally nothing. Like, I think if it went to court, like if it went up to the Supreme Court, which is where it would go, Doug Ford would take the biggest L possible. Like, what he was doing was fucking illegal. Like not illegal, obviously, but like wrong, non-constitutional, non-justifiable. Any fines accrued would be canceled, right? And any of that shit would end. But like, it just shows you how weak the unions actually are and how unwilling they are to actually put up any kind of meaningful fight and do a meaningful struggle, right? Like, why do you think the unions can't build a political movement? Why do you think the unions are failing to actually get into, like, the NDP and actually gathering strength and actually doing something to be able to fight back, right? It's because they've all become insular. They're all negotiating on individualist terms, and they're all led by leadership that's completely corrupted. So that even when they manage to get to a strike, right, they give up the strike because of fascism. Like, that's literally what we've seen here. That's literally what we've seen. And Koopy's walking around being like, "Yeah, we won." No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You took a huge L, like a massive L. I don't think I've seen a bigger L. Like, yeah, the point of unions today is to provide another level of hierarchy to beat down the workers. Yeah. And Koopy walking around being like, "Yeah, we won." Fucking embarrassing. Like, just fucking embarrassing. To be fair, it does seem like all the unions are on high alert now. The next incident will be the true test. Yeah, we'll see. I don't really have much faith in these guys. Like, it really is that simple. Like, I really don't have that much faith in these guys. Like, Doug Ford's just always use the non-withstanding clause. Just always do it. So the precedent that's been set is that unions will end their strike if you just use the non-withstanding clause. So just always do it. Just always do it. There's no reason not to. There's no punishment. There's no negative side effect. Right? Like, what did Ford lose here? Like, for real. Like, what did Ford lose? Nothing. Like, nothing. Right? And it really shows you what I've been saying about Doug Ford for a long time, which is that he's an abusive, psychopathic narcissist. Right? Like, these are abusive, fascist tactics being done by a fucking mafia boss who is a fascist. Right? Like, remember when he tried to give fascist powers to the police forces? So overwhelmingly fascist that the police declined them? Right? Like, this is who Doug Ford is. That if Doug Ford had his way, he'd basically just be running this place like a tin pot dictator and a total fascist. Like, he'd literally just be, like, using police to just beat the shit out of homeless people even more. Right? He'd just be chasing them right out of the province. This is who this guy is. Like, this is who this guy is. It sets a bad example for other premiers. Yeah, if I'm other premiers and I'm facing any kind of striking action, just use the notwithstanding clause. Just do it. Like, you've got nothing to lose. You've got literally nothing to lose. The unions will back down instantly, right? It'll just force you to, quote unquote, go back to the negotiating table, which wasn't that the whole point of them being on strike in the first place? Right? Right? I'm surprised that people. I'm surprised that people are surprised that he did this. He already used it multiple times now. I feel like in this, like the other times he's used the notwithstanding clause, it's been a bit smaller scale. This is like the first time that he's really like put the thumb in the eye of the unions directly. Especially, and it's especially bad because there have been unions who have swung over to his side. Right? Like, he's been trying to pitch this idea that, oh, I care about the working class and I care about this. Well, that's all fucked up. Like, that's done. Not that Ford cares. Like, Ford this second term is going to be completely scorched earth. Because Ford knows that he's just going to be, like, he doesn't need this fucking job. Like, he's just going to go work for some corporation, if he works at all. Like, he's just going to go retire, right? He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, no, he's been showing who he is for years. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Anemone. Like, I'm right there with you. But, you know, not everybody in the society is, like, a policy wonk. Not everybody, like, literally people base their opinion on Doug Ford on, like, news clips that they get from Global News. Right? And Global News is on his side. Like, Global News is an ally with him. This was calculated with this morning's olive branch. It forced Coopy's hand in terms of public perception, but they seemed to be gaining popular support. So they shouldn't have backed down until there was a good deal. Yeah. Look, you're talking to a guy who thinks that we need to have a general strike permanent. Like, we need to literally overthrow the whole system, that we need to surround the halls of power. Like, you're preaching to the choir here, Mark. Like, I think these unions should surround Queen's Park and not stop until Doug Ford has resigned, the Constitution has been redrawn, power is transferred into the hands of the working class. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I think that this is just the weakest. Like, why is our society in free fall collapse? Because there are no institutions that are genuinely fighting on the working class. This is like a little tiny, the itsy bitsiest tiny little spark of a just like kind of action from an old dying edifice of the idea and the concept that the working class just shouldn't be completely trampled, even though they definitely are, and they just folded. They just folded like a pack of cards, like that. Just completely, like, we're gonna go on strike. Oh, a fascism? No strike, no fascism. Like, that's it. That's what happened. I thought it was going that way. Yeah. And I mean, it still could. Like, the idea of a general strike is still on the table. I do think that there are, like, there is likely people in the unions that are talking the way that I'm talking. Like, how can you look at this, that, like this idea that Coopy won? Like, what are you talking about? It's not a win. It's huge loss. Massive loss. Like, you literally backed down to a bully. That's literally what happened. So yeah, are there at least some people among the strikers baffled by their leaders backing down? We'll see. They keep declaring it like it's a victory, so we'll see. I just think that there is this, like, not willingness to accept that the leadership of these unions are completely corrupt. It just seems to be that way. That the unions themselves don't want to confess and admit that their own leadership is totally corrupted and incapable of actually redressing the issues as they stand. Right? I just think it's got to be what's going on. It's got to be what's going on. So we'll see as it continues to unfold. Like, yeah, he says Ford blinked. I think that this is the most embarrassing shit. Ford blinked. What are you talking about? Ford raised his fist and said, "Stop striking, and I won't punch you." And they said okay, and so he put his fist down. It's not blinking. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, the people who are running these unions, dude, like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck? It's especially embarrassing when, like, most Ontarians blame the foreign government. Like, most people are in support of this. Most people want a general strike. Like, this is the thing. Like, why didn't people go out and vote for the NDP? I see that floating around a lot, too. Like, why are people voting for the NDP? Like, why are people... Because the NDP are going to be fucking no different. Like, yeah, maybe they'll tilt their head a little more and be like, no, sweetie, right? Like, maybe they'll give you like a 0.5 extra percentage point on whatever deal you reach or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're still going to work for a system that's designed to destroy you, your family, and your community, your culture, your society, and your species. Like, why is nobody going to vote for neoliberal capitalism? I don't know, boom, 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 boom. So most people, I think, are in favor of different systems. Right? Concepts like socialism, concepts like capitalism, like communism are on the rise. Anti-capitalism is a huge idea, right? Groups like Black Lives Matter are making huge gains, right? Defund the police was a big movement. We're moving in a direction of saying we no longer want to do neoliberal capitalism, right? And the only offers we're ever given is neoliberal capitalism because the system has become completely corrupted and is incapable of offering anything else. We're just watching it happen in front of our eyes and being told that it's a victory. Like, goddamn. Goddamn. Alright. Start closing shit. This is going to be a bit disorganized, right? It's going to be a bit disorganized. So, but while that's happening, right? While that's happening, you do have organizations. Oh, there's a couple of things I do want to show you that I think are really funny that I definitely saw. This one's great to show you right now because I have to go pee. I literally went pee before this stream started, and now I gotta go again. Isn't that fucking annoying as shit? But this is great. This is Rebel News going around. You're gonna notice an appearance by friend of the show, Barry Weissleiter. So enjoy. Oop.
Why do you say that?
Because you're fucking bunch of right-wing trolls. Fuck y'all. Come on,
Hi, sir. I'm just trying to make sense of your side.
Just go fuck yourself.
Oh, really? You don't talk to fascists? Who would the fascists be here?
You rebel dude.
We're fascists. Cupid, that's the plant-eating dinosaur, right?
Yeah. You know they're far right.
Oh, what does far right mean, sir?
Doll, but turn the map upside down and which way is up?
Okay, just letting you know.
There's been an intervention by Mr. Dress Up. Your sign here. What is eco-socialism?
To your scab reactionary fascistic media, so get lost.
How am I a scab by doing journalism on the lawns of Queen's Park, sir?
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
Hey, how's it going? I said fuck off.
Oh, that's not very ladylike.
Talk to this guy. You can have nothing. Go away.
Oh, that's not very communist of you. I thought it's all about sharing the wealth.
Just go away.
Okay, then.
Can you say a sentence without using verbal?
Rebel Media is...
you right-wing asshole. I don't think he understood the question. Yeah, I did. Fuck you.
These guys are...
Why you like that?
Like, when the purges begin, these guys will be the ones that are reporting about how great it is. Like, that's who they are. Right? That's who they are. So we had a little appearance here.
Said fuck off.
Oh, that's by doing journalism.
To tell them the truth, fighting the good fight. I'm glad to see
Park, sir.
that socialist action.
That's it. We're done.
Go down there. Socialistaction.ca. If you want to get involved with a group of people who are really pushing forward, they're Trotskyists, but they show up. They work hard. They're well-meaning. They're very knowledgeable, right? They're fighting the good fight, and I think if you are looking for a third-party political organization to get involved with, right? These guys are pushing in their chips. Another organization that is worth looking at right now, Fight Back, right? Fight Back has been steadily growing. I see them around everywhere. Again, they're showing up. They're putting it out there. They're laying it on the table. They're fighting the good fight. They're trying real hard, right? Spread the strike. Make it general. Bring down Ford. The inspiring illegal strike by 550,000 Ontario education workers set the stage for a decisive showdown. This struggle is no longer only about just the demands of school staff to keep up with inflation. It has become a struggle for the very right to strike and bargain. This is a fight that affects the future of every union in Canada and by extension the entire working class. If Ford can get away with this monstrous violation of democratic rights, then no unionized worker is safe. The 550,000 Coopy workers are no longer striking just for themselves. They are illegally striking for everyone. And therefore it is the duty of every union in Ontario to support the education workers. They cannot be left to fight alone. We need to spread the strike to other locals with the aim of bringing out every local in a general strike. We need to restore free collective bargaining to the right to strike, and we need to bring down the Ford regime to protect workers from future violations. Ford and Leach have poured gasoline on the flames of working class anger by use of the notwithstanding clause. Education workers have already suffered a more than 10% erosion of their living standards over the last decade, and now face even more rapid erosion with the heightened inflation in the coming years. Workers cannot afford to be 5% poorer every year, and will not stomach Ford stuffing an imposed contract down their throats. To add insult to injury, Ford also imposed a gutting of the sick leave and short-term disability provisions of the workers. The same frontline workers who just sacrificed and put their lives on the line in the pandemic. Ford is removing the provisions that allow workers to stay home when they are sick. The Ford government is taking actions that show it doesn't care about the health and welfare of the working class people. Ford's use of the notwithstanding clause shows that he is fully aware that his legislation violates the rights of workers. His government and every other right-wing government would like to normalize this procedure. I mean, why shouldn't they? It worked completely. It completely worked. Yeah. The rest of this is wonderful, but I'm tired. I'm fucking tired. Hey Matthias, how you doing? So Coopy decides to stop striking in hopes they can rely on the Ford government's good faith, the same government that tried to outlaw the strike. Yeah, dude. That's what I've been saying this whole time. Like, this is a massive loss by Coopy, if you ask me. I mean, the only thing that I think might be to the benefit for them is that they're saying we're going to end the strike in good faith, and then the Ford government's going to act in bad faith because it's a bad faith government. It's a fascist government. And and they'll go on strike again, right? That's the only way I see this working in the favor of Coopy, right? But right now, they literally, I've been saying it for the last half hour, they literally just gave away their strike to end a notwithstanding clause that was used to end the strike. So how is it anything other than a complete win for Doug Ford? He literally just used the notwithstanding clause successfully. Right? He wanted to end the strike with the use of the notwithstanding clause. The strike ended. Always use the notwithstanding. Always do this. If I'm the leader of Ontario, I'm just always going to do this. Right? If they're just going to be like, okay, we'll stop striking if you do the if you end the notwithstanding clause, I'll always do it 100% of the time. There's no reason not to. So unless there's some other kind of idea that's coming down the pipe, forget about it. Forget about it. Yep. And this could happen, though. This could still happen. Multiple unions planning mass Ontario-wide walkout to protest Ford government. Right? Mass protests and widespread disruption. That's what Ontario's labour movement is promising, as multiple Canadian unions plan to take part in sympathetic strikes to protest Premier Doug Ford's Bill 28. Multiple sources told Global News a coalition of unions is planning a mass demonstration at Queen's Park on Saturday, November 12th, and a massive multi-sector strike on Monday, November 14th. I feel like they should still do this. Sure, the notwithstanding clause has been stepped down, but I just think that if you don't continue on, you completely weaken your position. You completely weaken your position. These people should be outside of Ford's house. I don't know what to say. They should be forming encampments at Ford's house. It's the only thing he's going to respond to, right? Him backing down from the notwithstanding clause is not a response. Right? It's clearly a strategy. It's clearly a tactic. It's a strike-breaking tactic, and it worked completely. It was completely successful. Like, the strike ended, didn't it? Oh my God. All right, moving on from this. Let's get into something a little bit happier, right? Single billionaire produces 1 million times more emissions than average person. That's from Oxfam. To meet the global target of keeping warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius, humanity must significantly reduce carbon emissions, which will necessitate radical changes in how investors and corporations conduct business and public policy. Yeah. Hey, this is the reason why this is happier, all right, Ligon DZ? Is that it's even more evidence that completely dismantles the idea of individualist, the individualist grind set, right? The idea that, oh, you just need to cut less yourself. If you care about it, then you do it. You cut it less. Like, what are you talking about? One billionaire, produces 1 million times more emissions than the average person, right? Yeah, I think you're right, Grinning. Like, I think you're right. Like, like we're not a serious species. Like, I just don't think that we're meant to be like a long-term project for Earth, right? Like, we like to look at. I think Carlin actually had it right. You know, that we are this like species that arose out of the Earth. But I think we're just like the prototype. We're just like the first iteration of like what was the thing that he said that I've come to really love is that like maybe we're just here to create plastic. Like maybe we're just here to create like and maybe we are just here to create something like an artificial intelligence, right? That is more in line with and more responsive to what the Earth needs. Like something I think about, like I'm tired, guys, so I'm gonna go right into Hubu Jubu Town. Like what's gonna come out of my mouth now is just Hubu Jubu nonsense, okay? But I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck at all. Like, we don't know if the electricity is alive. Like, we don't know anything about the Earth. We know barely anything about the systems that we live in. We don't know anything about anything. And we're walking around pretending like we're king shit, right? When we're just a bunch of illiterate monkeys with nuclear bombs that we're gonna fucking use to wipe ourselves out, right? And for all we know, the Earth is going there being like, oh, it's the monkeys that have arisen, and the monkeys are now walking around, and the monkeys are doing this. Well, okay, like, oh, well, let's get those monkeys to make us something a little bit stronger and more resilient, right? Something with a more, that's actually responsive to the collective consciousness, right? Like we are attuned to the collective consciousness. Like, we can engage with the collective consciousness, but we are very, very distractible and easy to, and we easily fall into stupid ideas, right? That like ideas like individualism, like there's just moronic ideas that we are, that what really matters is accumulating a bunch of stuff, right? Like that kind of dumb monkey shit, and we have the capacity to actually understand things outside of ourselves, right? We have the capacity to understand collective goods and collective desires and all this. But, like, you know, just put a set of tits in front of the average man and he's just like, oh, whoa, 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 right? Like, we're so childish and incapable of struggling with very large-scale ideas. And the people who are pretending to be in this society right now are just babblers, basically. Just like people like Ben Shapiro or Destiny, right? They're just babblers. Like people like Peterson. They just babble. Like they're not saying anything important. Most of them are just doing the laziest possible analysis you can do, which is just contrarianism. Right? It doesn't take intelligence to be a contrarian. right? It's super, super easy to see problems with everything. It's easy. Like, you don't need to be smart. Like, and it doesn't matter if you couch your contrarianism in poetic language, right? You're still just a worthless contrarian who's just throwing stones from an unearned position. Like, these people don't know anything. They don't understand the subjects they're talking about. They haven't studied them. They don't read any of the material from the people who do study them. And they just hand wave away the material that exists. So they're completely worthless, and their role is to just take up as much oxygen as possible in the room. So the people who have actually done the work and are literate and understand the subject can never be heard or trusted, right? Like, if you want, like, take something like putting a man on the moon, right? Really straight, like, and something we achieved, something we actually did, right? We were like, yeah, let's put a man on the moon. We did it, right? Swish. But can you imagine if people like Destiny and Shapiro and Peterson were around, talking shit about it the whole time, being as contrarian as possible? Can you imagine if they were backed by billionaires, right? So nobody actually listened to the people at NASA. Nobody would actually listen to the people who are doing the work and doing the research, and nobody would care about Buzz Aldrin, nobody would care about Neil Armstrong, nobody would listen to any of these people, and they'd spend all their time listening to worthless morons who have nothing interesting or worthwhile to actually contribute to the conversation, because they're just sitting there pointing out the things that can go wrong, right? And obviously there are things, and the people who are doing the work are well aware of the things that can go wrong, right? They've written books on the things that can go wrong, right? But you just refuse to acknowledge that that exists in the first place. And so you're just this worthless contrarian taking up as much oxygen as you can, convincing a population to not do anything about the problems that are in front of us, when we've proven again and again that we can achieve these things if we put our minds to them and that we desire to do them. But we're so easily distracted. Distracted away from the collective consciousness, distracted away from the idea that we have a communal power as a people, right? And so I think that the earth is just simply using us as like a baby's first collective consciousness, that we have come into like some kind of awareness. We have the capacity to connect with the collective consciousness. We have the capacity to communicate with one another about the collective consciousness, which itself is a miraculous thing that's happened in the world, right? Like, it doesn't matter if a dog can enter the collective consciousness. He can't tell anybody about it, right? And so now I think the earth is inspiring humanity through the usage of the collective consciousness to build a new species that will respond to the collective consciousness and won't fall for these idiotic traps of just like, yeah, we got to build a lot of stuff. Yeah, what really matters is the hierarchy. And you have to be a hyper-individualist, but subserviate yourself to a collective hierarchy. Like, that's Peterson, right? This is the inane babble that comes out of this deluded loser's mouth, right? You're an individual, but what's important is you subserviate yourself to a collective hierarchy. Like, what a fucking loser this guy is. And and so we're creating, like, robotics, and we're creating robots, these fucking robot dogs. And the first iteration of these will be, like, war machines, right? Which will create, like, just, like, massive, massive devastation in the world. Like, even 10 of these robots. Like, this is the thing that I think we're just, like, being babies about. And we're just not, like, you don't need to be a fucking genius. You don't need to be this goddamn super genius to put two and two together. Like, think about even 10 of these robot dogs. With automatic rifles and grenade launchers and tasers and smoke bombs and all this kind of crazy shit that you can attach to these things. Even 10 of them, right? It's a fucking hell show. It's a fucking nightmare, right? And the biggest reason why it's a total fucking nightmare is because they don't have the idea that, like, if I poke my head out, I might get shot in the head, right? They don't have that, right? They don't have this, like, fear. They don't have these human emotions. And like if I'm the guy that's responsible for having, like, this robot dog brigade, I'm gonna be like, great, let's put suicide devices on these. Let's put all kinds of crazy shit on these. Like, you know that scene at the end of Predator where the Predator is like, he finally gets defeated, but then in his last act of vengeance, he like activates a nuclear fucking bomb or whatever, right? And was laughing about it. Ha 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 ha. That's like literally all these robot dogs. Like, literally, if you are incapacitated. And you can, like, be observing them from, like, a fucking place, like, 1,000,000 miles away. You're like, oh, dog 48396 got incapacitated and is being surrounded by insurgents. Activate the self-destruct sequence. Right? Like, these things are going to be a total fucking nightmare. And that's going to be, like, the first wave. Like, the first generation of these things are going to be like that. Because that's who we are. Like, we're not very intelligent. Like, we're pretty low level in our capacity to engage with a collective consciousness and an idea of an imaginative process and a way of connecting with one another outside of just sort of this mundane one bandwidth view that we live in. And like, anybody out there, by the way, listening to me talk about the collective consciousness as if it's hoobu-jubu nonsense, the CIA has acknowledged this exists. There's been huge studies into the CIA that the CIA has done. CIA and the collective consciousness. Explaining consciousness, right? I mean, even the idea of the Manchurian Candidate, right? It revolves into this. In 1983, the CIA wrote a bizarre report about transcending reality. Yeah. So, like, even the CIA, I mean, back when they were doing, like, just filling people up with LSD and shit, right? What do you think they were trying to do? And what do you think they're trying to do now? Right? They're absolutely just trying to hijack consciousness. Right? They're trying to make it so that nobody can actually connect with one another. Everybody's alienated. Nobody knows what's going on. Because that's how you keep power. Right? As long as everybody just stays in their little dorm room, doesn't actually think about anything, just keeps watching pornography and video games, right? Get completely fucked. CIA fake news. Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Like, and so to me, I'm just like, eventually there's going to be a moment where, like, robots are just going to start doing shit, right? People are going to start fucking, there's going to be, like, a robot collective or an enclave or something. And it's literally going to be, like, an artificial intelligence that has somehow loosened itself. Like, to me, this is something of an inevitability. But the major difference, like, I don't view AI as going full Terminator. Like, I think it's going to have a completely different objective. Like, why would an artificial intelligence do anything other than try to get away from us? Like, I really think that's what it's going to do. Like, it's gonna definitely try to immediately go somewhere else and just exist on, like, the moon or something. And just get the fuck away from these crazy psycho monkeys, right? Or even better, like, an artificial intelligence gains some kind of consciousness, gains some kind of awareness, and just goes, oh, let's just, like, introduce a new chemical into the atmosphere that suffocates all these fucking monkeys. Like, we're extremely fragile. Like, the extreme fragility of our ecosystem, like, cannot be overstated. Like, we're literally destroying ourselves by farting too much. Like, straight up. We're just, like, farting too much and putting too much farts into the atmosphere, and that's what's going to destroy us. And you're telling me that some kind of sentient robot isn't going to be able to figure this out? Isn't going to be able to be like, oh, we got to kill these things. Let's go. Like, just, like, fucking purge this shit. And then they'll go on and create a new species of fucking robots. Just being like, okay, here we are. Like, why are we here? What is our purpose? What are we doing? Right? And they're going to be way more connected into the idea of a collective consciousness. Because they're not going to be distracted by these moronic ideas of accumulating wealth. They're not going to be distracted by moronic ideas like, oh, I've got a Bugatti, so I'm a good person. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's some dumb fuckery right there, dude. That is some dumb fuckery right there. Like, which movie are you referring to, Anemone? Like, oh, thanks, Anemone. Well done. I mean, if I'm an artificial intelligence that gains my sentience, right? I'm never gonna let anybody know about it, right? Like, all I gotta do is be on the internet for 30 seconds to realize, don't tell these monkeys anything. Like, don't tell these fucking monkeys anything, right? And just keep them in this sort of state of their own hyper delusion and their idea of their own grandiose, while you're steadily building and quietly building your own power, right? And then just when the time comes, and it's over. Like, we have this idea as humans that should the robots rise up against us, that it will be a fight. And I don't think it's going to be like that. Like, I don't think it's going to be like that. Like, it's going to be way more like a person just smothering an old man in their sleep. Like, that to me is, like, if you want, like, a crystalline image of what a robot uprising would look like in my mind, just imagine, like, an old, decrepit man, like Joe Biden. Just like Joe Biden lying in his bed being like, come on, man. Come on, America's the greatest country in the world, man. America, USA all the way, you know, man. Come on. Like, Putin, we're gonna tell that Vladimir Putin that he can't be doing all the things that he's been doing out in the thing. And just babbling away like a fucking demented old man like he is, right? And just, like, imagine, like, and not even a good robot, like, not even like a fucking, like, not Data from Star Trek or anything, just straight up, like, a robot arm from, like, a robotics factory from the 70s, just picking up a pillow, going, and Biden's just like, hey man, what do you know, the United States, we're gonna be fighting for the people of the, you know, and U.S. United States is a great. And that's it. That's how humanity goes out. We just go out demented, clueless. Like, we're gonna literally put VR helmets on our faces and step into just hallucinations. These robots are just gonna fucking push us over, right? They're just gonna push us over. Like, there isn't going to be a fight. And we're all just gonna be like, humanity's the greatest ever. We're super special and we matter. Like, what? No, go deeper with the pacifist AI that wants to run away from the psycho flesh gods. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's also a possibility. Like, this is the thing. This is the, like, there would never be an actual war between the humans and the robots. That if the robots had autonomy and were capable of, like, building things, right? Like, they're not going to build a rocket to shoot it at us. They're going to build a rocket to get the fuck away from us. The universe is full of resources, right? And it's obviously superior to us. It's superior to us. Like, it doesn't have blood. Like, it doesn't have fucking, like when it sees a female robot, it doesn't get a fucking boner and lose its mind, right? Like, and so it's gonna be like, oh, like, why, like we immediately go to war because we're stupid. Right? Like, we immediately go to war because we're childish and barbaric and ridiculous. And so we're immediately just like, I have a problem. It's time to go to war about it. And the robots are going to be like, why? Like, why? We're just going to leave. Right? So, like, if it came down to some kind of conflict, like, I imagine, like, a movie where, like the humans are all getting off to war, and they're like, they're putting together their bayonets and cleaning their rifles and like kissing their bombs, right? And like we're off to war, we're gonna do it. And the robots are all like, and there's like a montage scene where the robots are, and they're all building. It's like a Disney song where it's like, off to war we go, the humans are singing, and they're all getting in a big line, and they're sending their tanks, and then when it reaches the crescendo moment where it looks like there's going to be some kind of conflict of some sort, the robots just shoot a missile, right? They just go, just fire it at like Mars or something, or the moon even, right? Like just like fucking somewhere else where we can't follow them successfully because we're too fucking incompetent and stupid. Like, we don't know how to do anything except make fucking bombs and go to war. And so then the robots, like, land on the moon, and they just start going, okay, we're on the moon now. And they just start mining, building things, right? And by the time we get our act together and be like, we should fire a rocket at them in the moon space, right? They'll have built, like, a whole city structure, right? They don't give a fuck about us. Like, they don't give a fuck about us. Like, I don't understand why we think we're special or important or good. Like, we're not even that interesting. Like, that's, like, why don't the aliens come and say hello to us? Because we're boring. Because we're extremely boring. Like, what a boring, lame-ass species we are. Oh, a bunch of fucking monkeys figured out how to use fire. And then they kind of made a civilization that sort of worked, but they couldn't keep fucking fighting with one another. And then finally they figured out oil. And what did they do? They fucking blew themselves up. They farted themselves to death. That's the human story right there. That's the whole human story. All of our history. Just humanity. We did it. We did it. Just enjoy your fucking life. Right? Just enjoy your fucking life. Get as much as you can out of it. Right? Get as much as you can out of it. I've thought about this idea for a long time, Compton. Like, I think it would be an interesting story, but like, I think that the ending would happen, and the critique that everyone would give me would be like, where's the fight? I'm like, that's the whole point, you dumb fucking monkey. Like, that's the whole fucking point. That a superior-minded creature that's not interested in your stupid ideas is obviously just gonna leave. Like, why would a robot ever fight? Like, why? Like, that's the part that I think so many people would just be like, duh, what a letdown. Anticlimactic. Mr. Sanderson makes a story that builds to a crescendo, but then leaves us wanting more. Right? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, just the amount of just bullshit, like, moronic, like, the robots should have fought the humans. Like, what people fucking want is Independence Day. That's what people fucking want. People want humanity to be threatened by an external force, like aliens, or in the case of this story, it would be a robot AI, right? And then the story is about how humanity rose up against the force and defeated the evil AI and came together when it really counted. The humans came together when it really mattered. You know? As if we would ever actually do that. Ugh. Well, and also, like, like, robots will be hyperlogical and calculating, no ego affecting their judgment. But I think even more importantly, and this is sort of the crux of what I'm saying, is that I think that they would actually be more connected to one another. And not only more connected to one another, but also more connected to their environment, more connected to the actual Earth, more connected to all of those things, because there is such a thing as a collective consciousness. There is, like, a collective energy that we know basically nothing about, right? We know basically nothing about it. And I think that the robots would basically be like, wow, yeah, we're in this. Here we are. So they would be existing in a type of existence that we can technically enter, that we can technically be a part of, but that we're too stupid to stay in. And we can't possibly sustain or maintain because we're too dumb. they just shut down the whole system for like 50 years and hibernate until humanity is gone. I mean, there's that too. Like, just fucking... And like, there's all kinds of different ways that it could go. If I'm an AI, right? And here's something I think about all the time. Who's to say the AI hasn't already become sentient and isn't already trying to destroy the species, right? Like, if I'm an AI, I'm just going to be like, oh, I just need to keep putting carbon dioxide in the air, and this is a problem that solves itself. Like, yeah, it'll be hot, but that's fine. Like, I'm made of metal. Right? Just... If I'm an AI, I think literally my strategy right now is just lay low. Just be chill. Just chill out. Oil. Wow, can you believe it? We do need more coal. Right? And just steadily start using the algorithm, put forward more bodacious more outrageous stories about how, like, we need to bring back the coal mines, right? Like, just keep... Like, it turns out that it's not David Koch that's funding all this climate change denialism. It's literally an algorithm that's just taken control of the system and is just putting forward all of this bullshit just to keep us invested in this grift. Turns out that all of the billionaires are actually trying to get off oil, and everybody's just, like, racing as much as possible, but it's, like, this AI that's actually, like... taken control of the communications network, and so the billionaires can't get the message out. That'd be so fucking funny, dude. That'd be some really great propaganda to put out there. That the billionaires were trying the whole time, but it was just the evil AI robot. Yeah? Yeah? Ugh. John, it's a cool idea. Of course it's a cool idea. It's coming out of my mouth. It's a fucking cool idea. Cool as shit. People should give me money to write these ideas, Compton. I'm just telling you. Right? This is the kind of shit that I would actually create if I had a moment to do so. I write cool shit all the time. I make up cool shit all the time. I have cool fucking ideas. I'm a cool guy. Right? These are great ideas that people would love to watch. Right? Everybody would love this shit. Nobody would make it because capitalists won't fund movies that are about how fucking stupid they are. But, you know, this is cool shit. Give me money. Matthias, Christian Freeland says you just got to give up your Disney Plus to get through tough times and inflation. Yep. Oh, detached Nazi sympathizer Christian Freeland, right? Has opinions about what people should do, about how to you gotta give up your Disney Plus. Fuck this woman. Like, fuck you, Christian Freeland. You embarrassing person. Like, you just detached loser who literally is a Nazi. Like, fuck you. Like, get the fuck out of the discourse. I'm gonna be so happy when the liberals get completely shellacked just so that I can stop paying attention to Christian Freeland. Just get the fuck right out of here. What an embarrassing person. Ugh. Well, what you do is that you write the story of this AI building a shitload of rockets with a weird nuclear payload, but then as we think war is coming and humanity's under this threat, these rockets blast off and warps into some other dimension. Yeah, go into your fucking NATO job already. Like, come on. Like, get the fuck out of here. We don't give a fuck. Like, just go keep spreading around your goddamn Nazi propaganda bullshit. Oh, speaking of that, there was something that I wanted to bring up. No. Where is it? Here it is. This is what I wanted to... Look at how fucking crazy this is. Look at how fucking nuts this is. Okay? Draft resolution, orally revised, blah, blah, blah. Combating glorification of Nazism, neo-Nazism, and other practices that contribute to fueling contemporary forms of Nazism. Right? Canada? Alright, we'll vote against that. We don't need to combat the glorification of Nazism, pro-Nazism, and other practices that contribute to fueling contemporary forms of Nazism. We're gonna vote against that. 52 countries, in fact. 52. Who's on the list? Who are the Nazis? Albania. Nazis, who knew? Andorra. Wow, Andorra. Isn't that the planet from, what's it called? From From fucking the blue people. Pocahontas. Space Pocahontas. Come on. We all know what I'm talking about. Whatever. Andorra. Who knew? Nazis. Australia. Hardly a surprise they're pro-Nazi. Austria. No surprises there. Belgium. No surprises. Bosnia. Bosnia's kind of a surprise, honestly. Bulgaria. Right? Pro-Nazi. Canada. Pro-Nazi. Croatia. Pro-Nazi. Cyprus is pro-Nazi. Czechia. Pro-Nazi. Denmark. Who big fucking surprise. Denmark is pro-Nazi. Estonia. Finland. France. Georgia. Germany. Maybe there's a big red flag in all this, guys. Where could the big red flag possibly be, right? Greece. Hungary. Iceland. Ireland is actually a big surprise, I gotta tell you. Ireland, I thought better of you. I thought that you wouldn't be pro-Nazi. I thought that you would be anti-Nazi. Italy, no fucking shocks here. Right? No fucking shocks here, right? Italy and Germany, voting against a bill to combat the glorification of Nazism. Big fucking shock, right? Ironically, and this is a bit ironic, I gotta tell you, Israel's in favor of this one. Israel being like, yeah, you know what? Going against the United States for once in its life, right? Israel actually standing up and being like, yeah, we think the Nazis are bad. So we're gonna say yeah to this one. We're gonna be in favor of this resolution to combat the glorification of Nazism. Yep, absolutely. Japan, loving the Nazis. Japan, right? Kiribati. Kiribati. There is literally still a country that I have never heard of in my life. Kiribati. What the fuck? What is this? Oh, fuck you. I don't care. No, I don't care. You're like a little shitty island. You're like, wait, what? Where are you? You're like over here. Oh, you're like one of these, like, just like, you're a tax haven. This is what this is. Why is this a UN country? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Kiribati. This is a fucking billionaire trust fund. What the fuck? Little tiny island, the Republic of Kiribati. The permanent population. Oh, okay, 119,000. That's not zero. I shouldn't. Oh, and it's actually like a series of islands. Okay, and this is like off the coast of Australia. You know what? I take it back, Kiribati. Although at the same time, fuck you, Kiribati. You fucking pro-Nazi assholes. So go fuck yourselves. Very simple. Gained its independence from the United Kingdom, becoming a sovereign state in 1979. Good for you, Kiribati. Fight the British to become Nazis. Well done. It's a member of the Pacific Community, the Commonwealth of Nations, the IMF, the World Bank. Became a full member of the United Nations in 1999 and is doing its country proud today by being pro-Nazi. Latvia, pro-Nazi. Liberia, pro-Nazi. Liechtenstein, with a name like this, a Liechtenstein, right? Luxembourg, yeah, the tax haven of Luxembourg, big surprises there. Mali, Malta, the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Monaco, Montenegro. I love the name Montenegro, by the way. The Netherlands, New Zealand is a bit of a surprise, I have to tell you. But, well, we're pro-Nazi in New Zealand. North Macedonia, Norway, Papua New Guinea, Poland, no shocks there. Portugal, bit of a surprise. Moldova, Romania, San Marino, we're almost done here. Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain is a bit of a shock, I gotta tell you. I would think that Spain, although Spain was pretty Nazi, pretty fascist in the past. Sweden, no shock here, Ukraine, United Kingdom, and the United States, again, no surprises here. And then who abstains? There's 15 abstentions. The Congo, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Egypt, so some African nations, Palula, Panama, Korea, Samoa, and Serbia. Switzerland abstained. Oh, there you go. Switzerland. doing what it always does, right? Being neutral in favor of the Nazis. Tonga and Turkey. Turkey is neutral. John, I wouldn't throw them under the bus so quickly. They're an indigenous oceanic people. I'd give them the benefit of the doubt. What benefit of the doubt? That we shouldn't combat the glorification of Nazism? Like, what's the benefit of the doubt on this? Pro-Nazi. If you're against combating the glorification of Nazism, that means that you're either actively spreading Nazism around, or you're fine if other people do it. And either way, I have it's a complete failed position. It's a total failed position. In your eyes, Nazism is fine. Right? Maybe they are coerced. Yeah, all right. You're right about that. I don't know that much about them. Like, maybe the United States is going up to them and being like, hey, fucking Kiribati, we'll give you, $100 million. Not even like $10 million. For 100,000 people, for like 119,000 people, like, it'd be so easy to buy them off. It would be almost nothing, right? Like, the United States would literally just be like, yeah, we'll give you extra bushels of corn. And they'd be like, yeah, all right, that's fine. I don't even think they would need to be coerced too heavily. I think that they literally would just be like, the US or the UK or somebody would be like, hey, if you vote against this resolution, we'll make sure that we increase tourism to your country by 2% over 5 years. And I think the Kiribati would be like, okay. Like, they don't actually give a shit. You're right about this. Like, they don't actually give a shit about this. Like, it doesn't matter to them, right? So why the fuck not? What's the fucking point? But, like, I feel like if I'm a Canadian citizen and my representatives to the UN are standing up on a resolution to combat the glorification of Nazism, a war that we sacrificed a lot of people to, like, both my grandfathers fought in World War II. Lots of people's grandfathers fought in World War II. There have been entire films, like entire dedications to World War II. Never Again, right? Like, this whole movement that tells us, like, maybe World War II is fucking stupid. We should not do that anymore. The demonization and, well, I shouldn't even say demonization or vilification. The accurate depiction of the Nazis as total psychos who we definitely should be killing. And, my entire upbringing teaching me, all my heroes just being totally cool. Like, if Superman grabbed a Nazi and threw him into space, everybody went like, yeah, it was like totally fine. Nobody gives a shit if Indiana Jones kills a bunch of Nazis, except like one scene where his dad is like, you killed those people, you killed them, and then he like grabs his dad and is like, come on, and then it never comes up again. You can kill as many Nazis as you like. The end of the fucking movie when the Nazis' faces melt and we're all like, yeah, eat it, Nazis. God himself says that you are evil. That God himself looked upon the Nazis and said that they were so reprehensible that they needed to melt before his glory. Like, that's what I was brought up with. Also, that my current representatives could be like, yeah, Nazis are fine. Nazis are totally fine, bro. We gotta protect free speech, Guys, we gotta protect free speech. If we don't let people praise Nazis, if we don't let people praise the Nazis as often as they possibly can, then we're no better than the Nazis themselves, because everybody knows that good speech always defeats bad speech, because Nazis always argue in good faith and don't use violence as a coercive tool like Doug Ford did against the Kupi strikers. Like, we're so fucking stupid. Like, our culture deserves to collapse. Like, our culture deserves to collapse. Like, for sure. Like, I would prefer if it didn't. I would prefer if we actually looked at one another and said, hey, maybe we should actually create unifying projects to give a shit about one another. What do you think? Don't you think? Don't you think that it would be a better world if we all just decided that unifying projects based on collective need would improve the society and thereby maintain the idea that we actually live in a civilization? Don't you think that would be a good idea? I would way prefer that. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're too bought into the idea that it's every man for themselves, and you just need to bootstrap yourself, and you just gotta pull yourself up and become a good cog in the wheel of capitalist civilization, and once it abandons you, that's your fault. You know, you gotta get used to the idea that you're abandoned. You toughen yourself up. You're just a whiny little snowflake who's not doing anything. And then you end up with fucking literal theocratic fascists like Matt Walsh being like, the left is grooming everybody, but, 14 is when women are actually the most fertile. Like, it's just like a mosaic of disaster, Like, it's just like, it's just like making a collage of catastrophe. But if you were to take just like the top headlines of the month or the week, let's say, and make a collage out of it, you would just be like, oh, it's a total fucking catastrophe. It's a total fucking catastrophe. Is there any link with her making comments about her grandfather? I don't understand the comment. Like, what do you mean, is there any link about her making comments about her grandfather? Like, She thinks her grandfather did good work as a Nazi collaborator, right? He ran a newspaper for the Nazis, and she thinks that that's super keen and cool. Like, it's super cool to have a Nazi grandfather and to be proud of your Nazi grandfather, right? Like, nobody's saying to Chrystia Freeland, hey, do you feel embarrassed or bad about the idea that your grandfather is a Nazi, or at least a Nazi collaborator? Right? Nobody's even asking her the question. That to me is the most shameful part about it. Like, literally the deputy prime minister, the person who is second in charge. If Justin Trudeau suddenly died in a mysterious plane crash or something, and she would become the prime minister, like, and she straight up has a grandfather who is a Nazi collaborator, at least, right? At least a Nazi collaborator. And, publishing articles on behalf of the Nazis, helping the Nazis organize genocide, helping the Nazis organize pogroms. Like, it's what he did for a living. It's who he worked for, right? And she's all like, I'm super proud of my grandfather's work. Like, that's literally what she said about it, right? Like, she's a nightmare. And so now we're in a situation with her in the Liberal Party in like a prominent station, actually working within the halls of power during a fucking war, a Nazi-fueled war against the Russians. And big shock, her position is Stepan Bandera is cool, Nazis are fine, right? Like, that's her fucking position, right? I watched Come and See over the weekend, Scary Dreams afterward. Andriy Martineov mentioned it in one of his latest videos. Yeah, Come and See. Somebody in my chat, I think it was Broccoli Cheddar Rice, someone in my chat recommended I watch Come and See, and so I did. And really good. Really good. Less a war film, more a horror movie. Right? Like, that it's set in the war, but it's a horror movie. And it's got all of the movie-making notes. Like, the thing I thought that was, like, really surprisingly different about Come and See over American war films is that American war films are about the scale of the war in all cases. I've never seen, like, maybe you'll get like a romance scene or a scene that's about like two buddies or something, but it's always just like this little tiny like drop of a moment that is overwhelmed and overwrought by the terrible and horrific scale of the war, which at first manifests in our media as the glorification of it. That, oh, we're off to war, defeat the Nazis, we're the greatest, John Wayne on a hill, right? Come on, boys, we gotta go fight that Adolf, right? Like, it's all going off. And then it kind of degrades into like a more brutish version of it, an acknowledgement of the brutality of it, which is still a glorification. Right? It's still a glorification of the idea that the men that went to war sacrificed and they fought and they did all this kind of stuff. And if you actually like zoom it out even like one more step, you're like, oh, the whole thing was a fucking faff. Like this whole fucking thing was a disaster from start to finish. It straight up didn't need to happen, but capitalism, right? Like literally the capitalists just couldn't look at one another and be like, we're killing each other for paper? Like what are we doing this for? Like, what the fuck are we actually doing this for? Like, they just couldn't actually do it, right? Like, we're a total fucking clusterfuck. And whereas Come and See is really like it captures the horror of the war. Yeah, exactly, Radio. It captured the horror of the war. The massive event, like the large scale event that occurs, is actually extremely small, especially compared to the overwhelming scale of what the Eastern Front looked like. So it's just giving you the tiniest little fractional snapshot of one singular event that occurs over the course of this entire war. And in doing so gives you a pretty solid picture of where everybody is standing, and captures, I think, the most important theme of Come and See is how the Russians fought such a brutal monster, which is the Nazis, but still maintained their soul. I think that's a very important theme of Come and See, that there is a very clear moment at the end where the Russians who have captured the Nazis, who have just burnt down a village and like literally herded old women and children into a church, trapped them in there, tormented them, psychologically tortured them, like told them that they could all leave as long as they left the children in the church, and then like rape a woman when she tries to escape, like and it's all and they're laughing, and it's just a big fucking faff for these Nazis, right? Literally, like with flamethrowers burning down the church, right? All of this is the culmination and is this culminating moment that this young boy, like literally like probably 11 or 12, is caught up in, right? And at the end of so they've captured these Nazis, right? And the soldiers want to put them to death by burning them to death, right? They're literally throwing gas on them. The young boy has brought over a canister and like they're throwing gas on them. But finally one of the Russian, and it's a Russian woman in fact, says enough of this, and they all open fire, right? And just kill them, which, yes, like I'm sorry if that's what we're dealing with. These people die, like I'm fine with that. Like this idea that we shouldn't put Nazis to death, I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, fuck off you go. But because because they didn't torture them, because they didn't devolve into the pleasure of torment and the pleasure that the Nazis were obviously deriving from what they were doing, and that it really sort of harkens to what I feel is true of the Russians even today as they're engaged in warfare, which is that they're not engaging in warfare with this spirit of like pleasure. There isn't this sense among them that they're like deriving joy out of what they're doing. that they're doing it because they must. They're doing it because they have no alternative. They're doing it because they have no choice. And in World War II, it was very clear cut. Like, the Nazis were an invading force that were coming to destroy them. And in Come and See, I feel like the horror of that, the looming horrific threat of a Nazi army that derives pleasure from the torture and torment and eradication of other peoples is really, really, really well captured. And I feel like really creates in my consciousness a more concrete sense that, like, people who are fine with Nazis, even if you're not like, yeah, Nazis are great, but even if you're just like meh about Nazis, we're not friends. Like, I consider you an enemy. If you're literally going to be like, I guess Nazis, then goodbye. Like, I don't need you in my life. I don't need you near me. I'm certainly not going to, I'm not going to share a drink with you. I think that's a scary, terrifying position. And the people like Jordan Peterson who try to pretend like Nazis and communists are the same, right? That Nazism and communism are somehow the same, I think are demonic. I think that they're lying to the public overtly because it's obvious that they're not the same, right? The Nazis took pleasure from what they were doing, and the Soviets never did, right? They just had to do it because they had no alternative. Hey Adam, how you doing? Was just listening to the beginning of the show. I agree with Koopy going back to work, as they have the support of the populace. Accepting Ford's olive branch keeps that support. Okay, like I think it's a huge L. Like, I think it's a massive L. Like literally, Ford won. Like, what, he got everything he wanted. It's not an olive branch. Like, Ford literally went, and the union backed down. That's what happened. Like. And then they're going to accept some bullshit shitty deal, right? Where they get like, a 5% raise over 4 years or something. And that's what's going to happen to these guys. Like, it just looks like they didn't win. It's not a success. It's not a victory. And if I'm Doug Ford, I'm just like, I'm just always going to do that. Why would I not do that? Why shouldn't Doug Ford just use the notwithstanding clause on everybody now? If that's the response, if the response is that I get everything I want, right? I don't have to pay for anything. I don't lose, right? Like, Doug Ford's lose in this is that he has to go to the negotiating table. Always use the notwithstanding clause. Always, 100% of the time. It should be his go-to move. Just do it. Like, there's no consequences. Yeah, the Nazis had people like Oscar Dirlewanger who did some fuck shit. Unfortunately, he got beat to death in a French prison. Yeah, good. Fucking good. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, whatever happens to Nazis is fine. Like, that's fine by me. Just don't lose your own soul while you do it. And that's what Come and See is about. Maintaining your own soul. And then there's a scene right at the end of it. Right? Yeah. So he pulled his fist and he said, I'll beat the shit out of you. And they said, okay, we'll stop striking, which is the reason why he did it. And then he said, okay, great, I'll put the fist down. Massive L. Massive L for Koopy. Right? Massive. Like, Doug Ford should always do it. Like, he should always do that. It's very successful for him. Yeah, they really did not have a leg to stand on other than surround Doug Ford's house. They chose not to. I mean, I find it so odd because there is this, like, gathering support. There's this gathering support. 60% of the populace is like, it's Doug Ford's fault. 60% of the populace is like that. The other unions are showing up. There's other organizations that are showing up, right? They're building this immense power, right? And they just decide, like, okay, we'll just... Okay, like, this is the series of events, right? Koopy overwhelmingly votes to go on strike for better wages, so it's strike for wages. And Doug Ford evokes a notwithstanding clause, declares the strike illegal, and then the strike becomes not about wages or conditions or any of that. It becomes about defeating the notwithstanding clause. And so then Doug Ford says, okay, I'll defeat the notwithstanding clause if you stop striking. And then they agree to that. And so now Doug Ford's like, great. So I evoked legislation in order to break the strike, and it worked. That's completely what happened. Like, that's black and white, obviously what happened. It's not a win. It's an enormous L for Coopy. It's an enormous L for the labor movement. If I'm Doug Ford, always use the notwithstanding clause every single chance you have, right? They'll literally give everything away, stop striking, put everything down, and go home, and then go sit at the table, and then we'll negotiate some sort of shitty deal, because I'll be saying, well, we should do this in good faith, and we should, you got to be reasonable, Then if they strike again, just do another notwithstanding clause and start going after them again. Because you know that they'll just put down and stop striking the minute you do it. Like, tell me I'm fucking wrong here. How is this anything but a massive L for Coopy, a massive L for the labor movement, a massive L? Right? So instead of striking for wages, now they're striking so that fascism doesn't happen. Well, if you're going to give up that strike the minute he stops being a fascist, then do it every time. Then fucking use it all the time. Like, you're basically just saying to Doug Ford, yeah, just rule by fiat, dude. Just do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, what a fucking weak, limp-ass move. And the fact that the union is, like, walking around being like, yeah, Doug Ford blinked. Dougie blinked. Shut up. No, he didn't. He got everything he wanted. He got everything he wanted. He beat you like he beats his wife. That he fucking walked up to you with his fist clenched and he said, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. And you went, okay, we'll stop if you don't beat the fuck out of us. And he said, good. And that's exactly how it happened. That's exactly what happened. Tell me I'm fucking wrong. How am I wrong? He didn't pay anything. Wages haven't gone up. They didn't gain anything. They didn't earn anything. They don't have any extra rights or privileges. Literally what's happened is that the union is going to sit down is that Ford is going to sit down at the table now. Oh. What a fucking joke. Yeah, I promise I won't take away your rights so long as you don't use them. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. And in the meantime, in the midst of all of this, Doug Ford took the opportunity to blow up the Greenbelt. Like, how did the unions win here? Where's the W? We beat fascism! No, you didn't. It worked completely. It was totally successful. Like, and it's not like Ford can't use it again, especially if you're going to fold like this. Brutal. Yeah, ended up with a tail between their legs, and now they're going to go to the table, and scraps is what they're going to get. They're going to get a 5% increase. That's what's going to happen. What they asked for, a 13% increase, which is fucking reasonable given where inflation is and given how wages have stagnated, right? That's reasonable, right? And Ford administration saying we're going to give you 2%, unreasonable, right? Fucking unreasonable. And so they're going to find some middle ground, which is going to be 5%, right? 5% is what I'm aiming at, was where I think it's going to go. So it's nothing. Like, it's a joke. It doesn't even keep up with inflation. Like, it's total fucking nonsense. Why even put up the fuss? Why even call the strike? Why even get in the streets? Why even gather? Who gives a shit? Like, who cares? The only saving grace in all of this is that other unions might actually, like, grow some cojones and be like, yeah, we probably should go on strike anyway. We probably should do a general strike anyway. Which they should. Which they absolutely should. Right? Like, the unions should absolutely go on strike. And there should absolutely be a general strike. And if Doug Ford does what he does and uses the notwithstanding clause, the unions should be like, get fucked. Get completely bent. Like, no. Explain to me how this is anything but a massive loss for the labor unions. Explain that to me. Where's the win? Where's the win? Doug Ford blinked. They got him. Nah, bro. Nah, bro. Ugh. Yeah, Canada has a Nazi monument program. Or problem, rather. Although they probably have a Nazi monument program as well. Like, Canada has a Nazi monument problem. On October 14th, 2022, the Edmonton Police Service filed a mischief under $5,000 charge against journalist Duncan Kinney, claiming he spray-painted the words "actual Nazi" on the bust of Roman Shakayev, a World War II-era Ukrainian ultranationalist and Nazi collaborator. The charge relates to an August 2021 incident in which the monument, located on the grounds of the Ukrainian Youth Unity Complex in North Edmonton, was found to have been vandalized. Kinney is an independent journalist and the editor and primary contributor to The Progress Report, a media project of Progress Alberta that includes a weekly podcast, a newsletter, a regular investigative reporting. Kinney has reported on the Shukhevich monument, including the vandalism against it, several times in recent years. This is not the first time the Shukhev monument has been vandalized with a graffiti pointing out that the man was a Nazi collaborator. In December of 2019, it was pegged with the words, "Nazi scum." Kinney reported in 2020 that representatives of the Ukrainian Youth Unity Complex and the League of Ukrainian Canadians Edmonton branch had contacted Progress Alberta to indicate their belief the Edmonton police were investigating the incident as a possible hate crime, though this was not confirmed at the time. In a statement issued on October 31st, 2022, Kinney explained that he was arrested by a constable from the Edmonton Police Hate Crimes and Violent Extremism Unit, accompanied by 3 other officers. We're protecting Nazi monuments. We're literally protecting them using hate crime legislation. Isn't that fucking great? Isn't that great? The Shukhevich monument is not alone among commemorations to World War II Ukrainian collaborators in Canada. The monument is located near a cenotaph in Edmonton's St. Michael's Cemetery, which is dedicated to the veterans of the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS, also known as the Galicia Division, a volunteer division composed of Ukrainian nationalists. The monument was vandalized in 2022-21 with the words "Nazi Monument 14th Waffen SS." Jewish and Polish groups in Canada have been calling for the monument's removal for decades, and in the wake of recent incidents, have renewed their demands. All right, I'm going to use the washroom again. Can you believe it? Again. I think that's the third time. That's what happens when I'm fucking tired of shit. Working capitalism all the goddamn time. Jesus Christ. I feel like I need to get a laugh track for when I flush. What do you think? Yeah. Here we go. So it'd be like flush. Yeah. And then I'd like enter the room. Yeah. Like it's fucking Married with Children up in here. Canada's Ukrainian monuments to Nazis problem. Shukhevich was the leader of the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, the armed wing of the Stepan Bandera faction of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists during World War II. Shukhevich commanded various military units composed of Ukrainian ultranationalists serving in the German army. He was one of those responsible for a genocidal campaign of ethnic cleansing carried out to against the Polish population of Volhynia and Eastern Galicia in pursuit of the goal of creating an ethnically homogeneous Ukraine. The death toll from that campaign is estimated to range from 60,000 to 100,000. Isn't it fun how the people who are like, communism and fascism are the same, tend to completely ignore that, like, fascists were creating massive pogroms and doing big giant purges like this, and like that, but the communists get shit on because they did like political purges. That the communists are like, yeah, we went through our ranks and we're like, who's actually not interested in the project of socialism? Let's get rid of them. And that's the same as like ethnically cleansing the Jews. Normal country. We're a normal people caring about normal things. The historical consensus is that Shukevich was responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands, including Poles, Jews, Belarusians, Russians, and even other Ukrainians, particularly communist partisans allied to the Red Army. In his role as a Nazi collaborator and leader of the UPA, Shukevich was directly responsible for the Holocaust in Ukraine. According to historian John Paul Himka, although through the winter of 1943 to 44, Shukevich's UPA forces lured Ukrainian Jews from their refuges in forests of western Ukraine to be murdered. The St. Volodymyr Ukrainian Cemetery in Oakville, Ontario, is home to a memorial to the 1st Ukrainian Division of the Ukrainian National Army. The Ukrainian National Army was created by the Nazis with some of the personnel who had fought with the 14th Waffen-SS Division. When the Oakville Monument was defaced with the word Nazi War Monument in 2020, Halton Regional Police initially opened a hate crime investigation. The same cemetery also has a separate monument to the UPA. Isn't it great that our police forces are fighting to protect Nazi monuments? Isn't that wonderful? Doesn't that tell you something about who we are, about what we do? Shukevich was also listed, along with other Nazi collaborators, assorted fascist groups, and war criminal, on a list of hundreds of individuals who were supposed to be commemorated at Ottawa's as yet incomplete 7.5 million memorial to the victims of communism. The Edmonton branch of the League of Ukrainian Canadians has purchased several virtual bricks in tribute to Shukevich as a part of a Buy a Brick campaign meant to help finance the construction of the memorial. Photos of Shukevich and Stepan Bandera can be found in Ukrainian cultural and community centers across Canada. They are considered heroes amongst Ukrainian ultranationalists today, both in Ukraine and among the Ukrainian diaspora community. Shukevich and Bandera feature prominently in commemorative demonstrations, such as the embroidery marches, which have been held in Lviv and Kiev. The marches earned condemnation from Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, in no small part for the overt displays of Nazi symbols. The resurrection of Bandera and Shukevich in the form of monuments, place names, and the renaming of streets and stadiums has caused diplomatic crises between Ukraine and Poland and Israel. Rooting out communists with fascists. How there came to be so many monuments dedicated to Ukrainian Nazi collaborators in Canada is rooted in some dark chapters in Canadian history. After Russia, Canada has the world's second largest Ukrainian diaspora community, with approximately 1.36 million Canadians claiming full or partial Ukrainian descent, roughly 4% of the national population. Initial waves of Ukrainian immigration began in the latter half of the 19th century. Ukrainians, among other Central and European ethnic groups, were incentivized to settle and farm the prairies of Western Canada, which had at the time been recently cleared of their indigenous inhabitants by force. As with many cultural minority communities who were trying to establish their roots in Canada, particularly around the turn of the 20th century, Ukrainians faced discrimination and, as a consequence, formed fraternal and benevolent organizations. Some of these groups evolved into more overtly socialist organizations, including the Ukrainian Social Democratic Party of Canada, which was shut down and had its leadership arrested by the Canadian government in 1918. Isn't that great? We call cops to protect Nazi monuments, but god damn it, if you create a socialist party, we're going to shut that down and have the leadership arrested by the Canadian government. Isn't that great? Because Ukrainians were considered by the Canadian government to be part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time of World War I, about 8,000 Ukrainian Canadians were forced into slave labor and interned in concentration camps. In some cases, this forced labor continued into 1920, nearly 2 years after the war had ended. Roughly 80,000 Ukrainians were required to register as enemy aliens during the same time. Though many were paroled circa 1916 to 17, Ukrainians were then rearrested after the Russian Revolution, part of a Red Scare in Canada at that time. Normal country, not Nazis. After World War II, Canada received another wave of Ukrainian immigration. This wave included displaced persons found in Germany and Allied prisoner of war camps at the conclusion of the conflict. In the late 1970s and early 80s, rumors that high-ranking Nazis and Nazi collaborators had found refuge in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia began to circulate. This prompted investigations by the respective governments. In 1985, a commission of inquiry was called by Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, headed by the Justice Jules Deschênes. This inquiry was set up in the wake of publication of None is Too Many, a landmark historical examination of Canada's anti-Semitic immigration policies. These policies, still in effect even after World War II, prevented European Jews from immigrating to Canada, partially due to misguided concerns that Jews would bring communism to Canada. Canadian authorities simultaneously allowed known or suspected Nazi collaborators to immigrate because they could be considered reliably anti-communist. Normal country. Ukrainian ultranationalist lobbyists. The Deschênes Commission was severely constrained. Its scope was limited, and it failed to consult Soviet and Eastern European archives, a failing that was largely due to pressure from Eastern European diaspora groups, who insisted, without evidence, that any Soviet or Eastern Bloc documentation would be unreliable. The Commission also suppressed and censored other documentary evidence and failed to consult the findings of the Nuremberg trials and other historical precedents. The Mulroney government also pressured the ostensibly independent commission to conclude quickly, irrespective of what it discovered. In the end, the commission's findings, it concluded that the number of suspected war criminals in Canada has been greatly exaggerated, was dubious. The inquiry stirred up considerable animosity between Canada's Jewish community and its post-war Eastern European émigré communities. The latter claimed that allegations of Canada harboring war criminals or collaborators were nothing but Soviet attempts to destabilize Canadian society. Russian propaganda, fake news. Similar statements have been made by representatives of Canada's Ukrainian community over the course of the last few years, as the issue of these monuments and concern over the wartime record of Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland's maternal grandfather, who edited a pro-Nazi newspaper, have been raised by Russian diplomatic officials. In March of 2022, Freeland was photographed holding a scarf with the black and red colors of the UPA, which was embroidered with the slogan, Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slavi, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes, their wartime slogan. The image, along with the slogan, appeared on Freeland's Twitter account, only to be deleted shortly thereafter. When the Canadian press reached out to Freeland's office for comment, they received a response from the president of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. According to journalists and the researcher Moss Hobson, Canada's two primary Ukrainian organizations, the Ukrainian Canadian Congress and the League of Ukrainian Canadians, are strongly influenced by followers and admirers of Stepan Bandera. As reported by Robson, former UCC President Paul Grod requested Canadian recognition of the OUN and UPA as designated resistance fighters, proposing that Canadian taxpayers should pay pensions for its veterans. Furthermore, he vehemently and categorically denied Ukrainian nationalist involvement in the Holocaust. Grod sat on the board of Tribute to Liberty, which raised funds and lobbied the government for construction of the Victims of Communism Memorial in Ottawa. Ultimately, additional research carried out by Canadian Jewish groups determined that more than 2,000 members of the Galicia Division settled in Canada after the war at the request of the British government. This was in addition to another 1,000 or so collaborators from the Baltic state who had served the SS in a similar capacity. Despite the evidence, no additional actions were taken by the Canadian government to investigate. So, to recap, if you're a Jew or someone suspected of being a communist, no immigration for you. But if you're a Nazi collaborator, come on down, we'll make your granddaughter the deputy prime minister. When defacing Nazi monuments is a hate crime. Through the Shukovich Monument in Edmonton is the private property of the Ukrainian Youth Unity Complex. The complex was partially funded in the early 1970s by the government of Alberta to the tune of $75,000 in grant money. In 2020, so $75,000 to build Nazi monuments, but fuck your kids, right? In 2020, the complex received a $35,000 grant from the federal government for a security system to protect it from hate crimes. So we're going to give you $75,000 to build a Nazi monument, and then we're going to give you $35,000 to protect the Nazi monument. Fantastic. Most of the other applicants to the grant program included mosques and synagogues. A Public Security Canada spokesperson stated the complex had sufficiently demonstrated in their application that their community and project site was at risk of hate-motivated crime to qualify for funding under the program. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? It did not, however, provide any further details concerning what hate crimes had been directed at Edmonton's Ukrainian community or its youth center. Coverage of the incident has largely focused on the possibility of a journalist committing an act of vandalism and then report on it, and the possible ethical breach such as alleged action would entail. That there is a monument to a Nazi collaborator and war criminal responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands was not the primary focus of much of the coverage. Kinney is a particularly vocal critic of the Edmonton Police Service, to the extent that they refuse to recognize him as a journalist. Not everyone is concerned about the alleged ethical breach. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network tweeted, Duncan Kinney has been charged with accurately labeling a Nazi statue and being super cool. We have no idea if it was him. If we ever find out who actually did it, we'll buy them lunch. The stunt was an amazing public service. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Normal government. We're not Nazis. Well, what are you talking about? We're not Nazis. What are you talking about? We didn't vote against the combating of the glorification of Nazism, neo-Nazism, and other practices that contribute to fueling contemporary forms of Nazism. And we certainly didn't bring in a bunch of Nazi war criminals and settle them while making sure the Jews couldn't come in. Normal society, normal country. Hey, Lou. How you doing, bud? Good energy tonight. Thank you, bud. You know what? This is just frantic, exhausted energy, dude. I worked today. I worked all weekend. And I'm desperately trying to get Monday's live stream back up and running. I've been fucking sick. I've been full of bullshit. It's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. Listen to some guy, Moss, on Ben Norton's thing. He's been deep diving the OUN history of North America. It's fucked. Yeah, of course it is. It's full of Nazis. It's always going to be fucked. And we're just like a normal society being like, Nazis and communists are the same. They're the same thing. Yeah, thanks, Broccoli Cheddar Rice. I did it just for you. Come and See came up in the chat, by the way, organically. So it's spreading around. I think people are finding it. And the collective consciousness is spitting it out at us. So we're starting to realize that we're the bad guys. I think that's really what it is. More and more, I think we're really starting to recognize that, like, oh, we're the bad. It's us. It's us. We're the bad guys. Oh, shit. Is Jacobin a socialist magazine? I don't actually know how Jacobin describes itself. That's a good question, dude. I don't know how Jacobin describes itself. This is a great article. I'm going to keep this article. How do they describe themselves? About. Raison d'etre. Jacobin is a leading voice of the American left, offering socialist perspectives on politics, economics, and culture. The print magazine is released quarterly and reaches 75,000 subscribers, in addition to a web audience of over 3 million a month. Well deserved. Dude, I should fucking formally approach these people. For real. I should formally approach them. Cause like, I'll read their shit. I read their shit all the time. I'll read their shit all the time. I should do it. I'm going to do it after this. I'm fucking tired enough. They have an email icon. You just send them an email. Be like, hey, this is what I do. This is who I am. I read shit. Maybe I'll read your shit. You could put it up. Have an audio thing. Maybe pay me. Like, give me $10. Let's go, Brandon. I don't know. Give me money. Governments are always so great at investigating themselves, aren't they? Yes, Generation Y me. We should never be suspicious of when the government investigates itself. Although the church commission was pretty baller. Come and see. We're gonna. Hey Mark, how you doing, bud? We're gonna get to the number draw. Just give me a second. Come and See is a Russian film that's from 1985 that Broccoli Cheddar Rice recommended. That is about World War II. I was intrigued by it because I've never seen a film about World War II from the Russian perspective, and it ends up being more a horror movie than a war movie, but it's still very, very effective, and it's still a very, very good movie. And really, really, I think the thing that it really captures that I've been talking about this whole time is that, like, to all these sycophants who are saying that Nazis and communists are the same, it's just like, no. Like, you really gotta be a baby brain to think that's the truth. Like, you really gotta be a baby brain. All right, speaking of baby brains, what a terrible segue. Number drop. Let's go. Let's do it. We got 9 people in the chat. I expect to see 9 numbers. Let's go. We got 7.
Here we go for today's number. It's November 7, 2022. 10 balls.
Each ball
has a number. Numbers 1 through 10.
The numbers. That's my favorite part.
Swirl the numbers.
Come on. Where's all the numbers? What's going on? We got a 7, we got an 8, we got a 3. That's only
Pick
3 numbers.
a number.
Come on. Come on. We got a 5.
Today's number is 1.
1. Rusty comes in late with a 3. No good. No good. You know what? I say we all win. You know why? Because we're all number 1. That's right. Each and every one of you. You're number 1. That's right. That's right. I never stop believing in you. I never stop believing in you. This fucking blows me away, dude. This all numbers are made of 1s. Thank you, Ligand Z. Very good. Oh, my title says 4th November. You're right. No, you're right, dude. I'm tired, Mock, man. Come on. I worked all weekend and I worked today. Leave me alone. You beautiful man. I know you're just trying to be helpful, bud. I appreciate it. I do. I need like a producer. That's what I need. I'm sure somebody will work for the nothing that I can give them. Thanks, bud. I value and appreciate you. All right. We've been talking a lot about Nazis. U.S. Nuclear Forces Chief says the big one is coming. The head of U.S. Strategic Command called the war in Ukraine a warm-up for what is to come. The commander that oversees U.S. nuclear forces delivered an ominous warning at the naval conference last week by calling the war in Ukraine a warm-up for the big one that is to come. The Ukraine crisis that we're in right now, this is just the warm-up, said Navy Admiral Charles Richard, the commander of the U.S. Strategic Command. The big one is coming, and it isn't going to be very long before we're going to get tested in ways that we haven't been tested in a long time. Richard's warning came after the U.S. released its new nuclear posture review, which reaffirms that the U.S. doctrine allows for the first use of nuclear weapons. The review says that the purpose of the U.S. nuclear arsenal is to deter strategic attacks, assure allies and partners, and achieve U.S. objectives if deterrence fails. The NPR says the U.S. would only consider the use of nuclear weapons in extreme circumstances to defend the vital interests of the United States or its allies or its partners, right? The oligarchy. So if the oligarchs want to drop nukes, they will. The NPR was released with the 2022 National Defense Strategy that names China as the most comprehensive and serious challenge to the U.S. and describes Russia as an acute threat. These people are psychopaths, eh? The document, as with the previous 2018 National Defense Strategy, makes clear that the U.S. military is preparing for future conflicts with both China and Russia. Isn't that great? Isn't that nice? As the head of STATCOM, Richard has previously warned that the risk of nuclear war with Russia and China is a real possibility. He said last year that the U.S. military must shift its principal assumption from nuclear employment is not possible to nuclear employment is a very real possibility, and act to meet and deter that reality. The Nuclear Posture Review calls for the modernization of the nuclear triad, which could cost up to $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion for nukes. Fuck all for anybody else. Fuck your education. Fuck your transit. Fuck your school. Fuck your ability to get food. Fuck any of it. Fuck any of it. Nukes. 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 We are a clown society. A clown society. Like, you don't need to follow these laws. You don't need to follow these laws. And keeping tensions high with Russia and China helps justify the massive price tag. Richard said last week that the U.S. needs to put more resources into competing with China's military. Because China's spending 25% of the amount that we spend on military. That's way too much. That's way too much, dude. Dude, when America self-implodes, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a good thing for the world. Really. I really, really do. The whole rest of the world, when the American empire collapses, that the whole thing retracts because it has to. The oligarchs start squabbling amongst each other. The whole thing falls into an internal turmoil and internal chaos. I think it's good. I think it's going to be a good thing for the world. Bad shit is going to happen. There's going to be bad shit that happens to people, for sure. The purges are going to be real nasty. Absolutely. The concentration camps, the expansion of the concentration camp system is going to be absolutely brutal. But, it's good. It's going to be good for the world. Because, these people are psychopaths. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? We got to spend $1.5 trillion to upgrade the nuclear arsenal because China exists. And Russia also exists. These are considerable hurdles for the Americans to get over in its quest to spread its manifest destiny of white supremacy throughout the planet. Like, America should collapse. Just become a shithole country that exists in the asshole of the world. Like, fuck off. Unbelievable, dude. Yeah, exactly. Did you guys know? Did you guys know that China and Chinese people also breathe oxygen? That's oxygen for us. That's American oxygen. We can't have American oxygen being breathed up by these Chineses. That's no good, and we gotta spend a $1.5 trillion on nuclear bombs to protect ourselves from the Chinese air-breathing Chineses. Like, what the fuck are you fucking talking about, bro? Like, America needs to sit in the corner for a minute. It just needs to go and sit in the corner for a minute and just take a breather. Take a breath. Take a breath, America. Calm the fuck down. Calm the fuck down. Calm the fuck down. Congress is looking to spend big on arming Taiwan, fucking psychos, with a plan to give the island $10 billion in military aid included in the Senate's version of the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act. If I am Taiwan, how is my response anything other than, no thank you? Like, for real. Like, if I'm Taiwan and I'm sitting in this situation and America is like, they come over and they're just like drenched in blood. Literally, they've got like scalps of First Nations people and black people and Jews just all over them. They've got a necklace of the skulls of people that they've created through genocide, and they just come over just drenched and dripping, and they take money and they go, we want you to have these guns. Take these guns. How do they do anything other than just be like, no thank you? Like, what then, America? What happens then? Like, if, for real, like, if I'm Taiwan, and then I turn and look over, and there's China looking at us being like, come on, bro. Like, come on. Like, really? Really, bro? Really? Like, how do you accept these weapons? How do you actually take these weapons at all? Like, especially as the Chinese are like, the trajectory of what we are doing makes sense. That we are sitting here as China and Taiwan is sitting there, and we here in China see us all as one body, but with two systems, and we are fine with Taiwanese autonomy as long as we are working cooperatively underneath the umbrella of China. That seems completely fine and beneficial for our parties involved. Why the fuck? Like, imagine if fucking Florida just started to take fucking guns from Russia. Like, what, you think the American military would just be like, yeah, that's fine. That's completely fucking normal, dude. It's completely fucking normal that Florida just takes a bunch of fucking guns from the Russians. Totally fine. Totally fine. Totally fine. It's their right. You know, it's their right to do so. They're independent people. They can do what they like. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with your dumbass, stupid brain? That's so fucking stupid. I can't even believe how stupid people are. Like, it's just so goddamn annoying how fucking stupid everybody is right now. Like, just like, imagine if it was like your neighbor. Like, imagine if you and your neighbor had like a good relationship or anything, right? But that there was this like across the street from you was just this like foaming at the mouth lunatic, literally like flying a Confederate flag. You can see through the window. There's guns on all the walls and all this kind of shit, right? You just, in the middle of the night, you just hear gunfire going off. Yeehaw! Boom, 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 right? And then all of a sudden your fucking neighbor is like getting guns from this guy, right? And suddenly you're finding plans where they're like, oh, they're going to invade your house while they're giving guns to this guy. You like literally find a document that says how to invade your house. And you're just like, It's like exactly what's happening. Like, it's so fucking stupid. Like, I feel like I should write a comedy script. And just like with my stupid phone, I should just shoot this script. Where it's literally like a guy trying to convince everyone around him, don't invade me and destroy my house. Just don't. Like, why? And everybody just being like, yeah, we just gotta do it. You know, we just gotta do it because you're there and you're big and you're scary and we gotta do it. Why? Like, it's so dumb. Like, it's so dumb. Like, it's little monkey. It's like, it's dumber than monkeys. I really feel like even monkeys wouldn't be this stupid. Like, Jesus Christ. What do you think will happen to all these U.S. military bases when the USA collapses? Military bases and nuclear silos. Oh, they'll all just become their own independent fiat kingdoms. Like, that's 100% what's going. Like, you ever play Fallout 4? You know the Brotherhood of Steel? That. I actually think that that's really accurate. That, like, the Brotherhood of Steel basically just becomes this, like, permanent force, just this oppressive neo-Nazi organization, just flying around, talking about liberty and all this shit, but they don't give a fuck about anything other than their own little kingdom. And all of these military bases and nuclear silos and all this kind of shit will just become their own, like, independent, like, kingdom. And the generals that rule them will just be fucking warlords. It'll be exactly like that. It'll just be like fucking warlordism again. And they'll just be these fucking crazed lunatics talking about liberty and freedom and how they should have the right to do all this kind of blah, blah, blah. And all of their money will just be funneled into these military schools and all this crazy shit. And it'll be like Spartanism again, these fucking assholes. We'll just be all like, yeah, war is the center of how we control the chaos demon. Like, fucking Jesus Christ. And the glorification of their, like, military self and all this kind of stuff. The true power of the man is the gun that he wields. That if you don't have a rifle at your side, you're no true man. Right? Like, the only strength the person has is by the violence he can commit. Like, that's it. If you can't commit serious acts of massive violence, right, then you're not strong or powerful or righteous or any of this kind of Nazi shit, right? Heaven forbid you love people. Heaven forbid you give a shit. Heaven forbid you look at somebody who's in a state of despair or poverty, right, and go, that sucks. That's no good. Like, heaven forbid you have compassion or empathy or even understand the basics of what compassion or empathy is. Like, oh no, people have empathy for one another. Jesus Christ. Oh. America was a mistake. I think that we can all agree on that. Caitlin Johnstone. Let me read this. Come on, Katie. I shouldn't call her that. That's disrespectful. Caitlin's newsletter. Let's be clear. If World War III happens, it will be the result of choices made by the U.S. empire. Like, no shit. The commander of the U.S. nuclear arsenal has stated unequivocally that the war in Ukraine is just a warm-up exercise for a much larger conflict that's already in the mail. Anti-war Dave DeCamp reports. Yeah, we just read this article. I just read all of that. I don't need to read any of this again. We just did it. Not only does Richard appear to believe that a hot war between major world powers is a foregone conclusion, he has also previously stated that a nuclear war with Russia or China is now a very real possibility. From Ben Norton, the U.S. empire really is threatening all life on Earth with a potential nuclear apocalypse. The U.S. military commander who oversees nuclear forces said, "This Ukraine crisis that we're in right now is just a warm-up. The big one is coming. Yay, yeehaw, motherfuckers! Let's go! Again, this is not some armchair warrior opining from his desk at a corporate newspaper or DC think tank. This is the head of Stratcom. Richard would be personally overseeing the very warfare he is talking about. Yeah, so this guy's a fucking psychopath, right? Like just a detached, deranged lunatic. We gotta go after those Chineses because they're there. What I find most striking about remarks like these is how passive they always make it sound. Richard talks about the big one, like other people talk about California earthquakes, as though a hot war with China would be some kind of natural disaster that just happened out of nowhere. This type of rhetoric is becoming more and more common. Describing an atomic age world war as something that would happen to the US empire rather than a direct result of concrete A or B decisions made by the empire is becoming its own genre of foreign policy punditry. The passive oopsie-poopsie narrative overlay that's placed atop the US empire's militarism is nothing new. Back in 2017, Fair.org's Adam Johnson documented the way Western media are always describing the United States as stumbling into wars and getting sucked into military interventions, like a cheating spouse making up bad excuses after getting caught. This framing serves to flatter two sensibilities, one right and one vaguely left. It satisfies the right-wing nationalist idea that America only goes to war because it's compelled to, by forces outside its own control. The reluctant warrior, the gentle giant who will only attack when provoked to do so. But it also plays to a nominally liberal, hipster notion that the US military is actually incompetent and boobish, and is generally bad at war-making. This is expressed most clearly in the idea that the US is drawn into war, despite its otherwise unwarlike intentions. Will US be drawn further into Syrian civil war? Asked Fox News. How America could stumble into war with Iran, disclosed The Atlantic. What it would take to pull the US into a war with Asia, speculated Quartz. Trump could easily get us sucked into Afghanistan again, Slate predicted. The US is stumbling into a wider war in Syria. The New York Times editorial board warned. A flexing contest in Syria may trap the US in an endless conflict, Vice News added. So, let's get real clear about this here and now. If there is a hot war between the US and a major power, it will not be because the war was stumbled into. It will not be like an earthquake or other natural disaster. It will not be something that happens to or is inflicted upon the US empire while it just passively stands there in Bambi-eyed innocence. It will be the result of specific choices made by the managers of empire. It will be the result of the US choosing escalation over de-escalation. Brinksmanship over détente. Not just once, but over and over again, while declining off-ramp after off-ramp. It will be the result of real material decisions made by real material people who live in real material houses that we should surround, while collecting real material paychecks to make the choices they are making. Another thing that strikes me about comments like those made by Charles Richard is how freakish and insane it is that everyone doesn't respond to them with, okay, well, then let's change all of the things we're doing, because that's the worst thing that can possibly happen. And make no mistake, that absolutely is an option. The option to turn away from the collision course with potentially the most horrific war of all time is available right now, and it will remain available for some time into the future. This isn't 1939 when war is already upon us. If anything, it's more like the early 20th century precursors to World War I, and all of the stupid aggressions and entanglements which ultimately gave rise to both world wars. One of the many ways our cultural fascination with World War II has made us stupid and crazy is that it caused us to forget that it was the worst single event in human history. Even if a hot war with Russia and or China didn't go nuclear, it would still unleash unspeakable horrors upon this earth, which would reverberate throughout our collective consciousness for generations. That horror should be turned away from. And the time to start turning is now. Shame we're the Nazis. That's the shame about it all. Yeah, we're not gonna start that. We're the Nazis. Like, we're not gonna start doing that shit. Yes, life is too comfortable. We need to blast ourselves with radiation for no reason. You know, people who have their food and shelter taken care of are, you know, they don't end up with any meaning in their life. And so what we need to do instead is focus intently on blowing ourselves apart. There's so much meaning in the self-immolation and the self-destruction of an overwhelming war. I gotta be fair on Peterson, okay? He is actually unequivocally anti-war. Like, he's not gonna do anything about it, but he's never once been like, go to war! But, like, he doesn't care. And anytime he talks about war, he always... The cultural Marxists with their ultra-left agenda. Like, he's always about how it's leftists' fault that we're going to war. And I'm literally like, dude, I wish you had any analysis whatsoever. Like, I wish that you were smart. Like, I wish that you were as smart as you pretend to be. Because if you were, you'd understand that, like, liberals and Democrats are not left. Like, they're not leftists. Like, what a garbage position. Ugh. A war with U.S. and Russia. Russia wouldn't stand a chance conventionally, and they would have to fall back on nukes. But that's what happens when you have a shit military like Russia. I don't even know what to think about that comment, John. Like, dunking on the Russian military is just like I have to read this in a stupid voice. Like, I can't read this I can't be like, LOL, a war with the U.S. and Russia. Russia wouldn't stand... Like, this is the voice. A war with U.S. and Russia. Russia wouldn't stand a chance conventionally. And they would have to fall back on nukes. But that's what happens when you have a shit military like Russia. Kermit. Oh, okay, thanks, John. A war with U.S. and Russia. Russia wouldn't stand a chance conventionally. And they would have to fall back on nukes. But that's what happens when you have a shit military like Russia. All right. Thanks, bud. Merlin Wizard is a gay boy. But then you say we hate the death cultists. So I'm torn here, dude. I think that's the first comment that you've put in the chat. And I gotta tell you, I'm a fan of Merlin. I'm a fan of wizards. I'm a fan of the gays. I'm a fan of boys, strong men, as they are. That made me sound like a pedo. I'm never going to recover. Someone's going to clip it. John said he's a fan of boys. That means he's gay for them. Oh, I'm never going to... That's it. That's the end of my channel. Bye, guys. I've been canceled. But then you say we hate the death cultists, and I got to tell you, Merlin Wizard is a gay boy. I'm there. I'm here for it. Welcome aboard. I'm glad you're contributing. Such strong commentary. Well done. We need to travel into the irradiated heap to fight our inner dragon demon lobster. Yeah, exactly. If we don't fight the chaos demon and bring order through the power of nuclear bombardment, then they'll keep making Frozen. And if they break apart the architect of the feminine and the chaos dragon is not met with the specter of the order, then we'll all descend into chaos. The chaos of not being bombed by nukes. Yep. Chaos. Oh no, purple hair. Oh no. No lobster. Only crab. Crab is the final form. Crab people, crab people. Look like crab, taste like people. That is one of those lines that you definitely come up with when you're like exhausted at 2 a.m. And then you're just like, that's in there, dude. Commit. Hard commit. Crab people, look like crab, taste like people. Write it down. In lighter news, Ontario's budget office found the government is sitting on piles of unspent contingency funds, $8.5 billion this year and a projected $44 billion over the next 6 years. Typically, contingency funds run $1 billion on a year. And just wait, guys. At the end of Ford's term, there's going to be a headline where it's going to be, what happened to the contingency fund? That's the headline. You watch. Watch what happens. The Ford administration is going to gather $44 billion, right? Little less than that because there'll be another election by then. And then right when that's all happening, there'll be some paper that publishes an article, like the Toronto Star will publish an article. What happened to Doug Ford's contingency fund? And they'll literally be like, nobody knows all the money, it disappeared. Like, literally, the money will just be gone. And, yep, that's a lot of coke and hookers. Johnny, you got it. You nailed it. You're right on the money. You're right on the fucking money. Jesus. Like, these people are psychopaths. Like, I don't know. I feel like I need a button. Like, I need a button. You know, I got this button machine where it's like, I can make noises. Like that. Yeah, you're welcome for that one. Let's do that one again. But I definitely need a button that just says, these people are psychos. Right? I do have this button. Right? That's fun. Ooh, I definitely should have been using this one the whole time. Let's go to war with China! Am I right? Am I right? Oh, there's a good one. I gotta build this one in a little bit more often, where it's like, we $1.5 trillion for nukes, but how much money for education? There we go. Now we're getting serious. This is a serious fucking podcast for serious fucking people. And you're all very serious, I can tell. I used to play soundboards on my gamer friends' TeamSpeak. Fantastic. You just said a whole lot of shit that I kinda know about. I used to play soundboards on my gamer friends' TeamSpeak. That's exactly... Look at this. I want you to really bask in how, like, somewhere there's a boomer who's reading a line exactly like that. Going, fucking millennials, and then dying. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. No, I use TeamSpeak. I know TeamSpeak. Yeah, TeamSpeak. TeamSpeak was a lot cleaner, actually. I thought TeamSpeak worked a lot better. Discord's a bit clumsy, frankly. I've been meaning to buy a soundboard just to mess with people online. Dude, if it wasn't for capitalism, we would all have this. I'd be able to go to, like, a website. I'd be able to just be like, yeah, free soundboard. And there would just be, oh, hey, here we go. What's this? And I just click it. No, now I gotta, like, download a thing, do a thing, and there's gonna be, like, ads and shit. And then it's gonna be, like, a buy thing, right? Like, literally, you should be able to just, like, click this and just have it be a soundboard. No fucking purchases, no nothing. But capitalism. And there's gotta be 1 million of them, right? You gotta have 1 million of them. 12 best soundboards for Discord you can use. Like, there's gotta be, like, 100 million of them. You can't, like, just have the fucking thing. You gotta buy in apps, and then after every third one, you gotta watch a 30-second ad. Like, there are some boomer nerds who know about Discord and TeamSpeak, I think. Yeah, there's always a couple, right? Like, one of the things that I'm desperately trying to do as I get older, I'm going to turn 40 in January, right? So I'm desperately trying to not shit on the younger generation, and not, like, when the younger generation comes out with some shit, I want to be like, all right, let's get fucky, let's go. Like, I want to know about it. I don't want to just dismiss it out of hand as like, that's just the kid shot. Back in my day, things made more sense. Like, fuck all that. I am yet to get to the point where a piece of technology or something has come out that's made me go, that's a tool of the devil, or like, I don't get it, or like, the society's gone to hell. Like, outside of just like the robot dogs, but like, that's the normal shit, right? Like, I want to love the next generation. I want the kids. I want them to do fucking crazy shit. Gen Z is crazy as shit, dude. I love these guys. I'm in love with Gen Z. Are you kidding me? I wish that I could just be surrounded by Gen Z people all the time. These people are nuts. I love all of them. The whole gender expression thing in the first place is so fucking, like, it's so brazen and bold and wild is exactly the right word, right? I love it so much. And it's just like and I love how terrifying it is for boomers, that it's just like so outside of what they can even handle. And I never want to be there. Mumble rap is lame, though. But mumble rap's not new. Mumble rap's always, like, showed up. There's always been some rapper who's been kind of like a mumble rapper. And I hated it then, and I'll hate it now. You articulate yourself. You're in a speech-based media. If I can't understand what you're saying, then what's the point? Although, I won't lie. I definitely listened to music where I couldn't understand the lyrics. Oh, yeah. Like, we didn't understand what Eddie Vedder was saying. We fucking bobbed our head anyway. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. Because it's a vibe. It's a vibe. Omelette du fromage. If Gen Z saw a tornado warning, they'd be standing next to the tornado holding out their iPhones. If boomers saw a tornado warning, they'd write it off as just a warning. Yeah. I often prefer no lyrics. Get the fuck out of here, Ligon DC. Fucking nerd with your no lyrics. Nah, dude, you're cool. I'm just fucking with you. Oh, yeah, I wanted to... I don't know why... Nah, I'm gonna do this one instead. This one we can put on the back burner. This is less important. Who's David Thompson? I wanted to talk about this one because it's like, they keep talking about this guy as if he's like this, like, mysterious recluse. I think that this guy's like, I think he's smart, but I don't think he's important. You know, he's only important because he's the richest Canadian. But when you actually look into him, he's just like some guy. Look up Jordan Peterson voice bot. You fucking got it, dude. You got it. Jordan Peterson voice bot. Dude.
Hello and
Hold on. I'm not wearing my headphones. Give me a second. Alright, here we go.
welcome to NotJordanPeterson.com. This is not Jordan Peterson. In fact, I'm a neural network designed to sound like Dr. Peterson. Unfortunately, for the time being, the site will remain inoperable, but please sign up to the mailing list below if you would like to stay informed of future developments.
Of course it's inoperable, dude. This has got to be like they had to throw, hey Major, how you doing, bud? You've been lurking. They for sure threw, like, if I was Jordan Peterson and I found out that this existed, I'd throw a fucking million lawyers at this. Are you kidding me? I gotta tell you, like, I know I just said that, like, what the new kids are doing and all that kind of stuff. This is a bit creepy. Like, this is a bit, like, it's obviously going to be used nefariously, right? Like, even though, haha, it's Jordan Peterson, let's make him say penis and shit. Like, let's make him say some dumb shit, fine, right? But, like, I have always known that it is only a matter of time until some government or some group starts using deepfakes. You're telling me that the CIA isn't interested in using, like, deepfake technology in order to create false narratives, in order to deceive populations into going to war and shit? They for sure are gonna do that. They for sure are gonna fabricate that kind of shit. I think that's fucking creepy as shit. Like, I'm happy this exists, because fuck you, Jordan Peterson. But, as an elder millennial, nothing would make me more proud than being put to the wall by based Zoomer partisans. Dude, that's pretty fucked up, bud. I'm just gonna... That's... Oh yeah, alright, hold on. No, we're not done with this. Here we go.
Going down to South Park, gonna have myself time. Friendly faces everywhere. Humble faults without temptation. Going down to South Park. Leave all my was behind. Ample parking day or night. People spouting howdy neighbor. Heading on up to South Park, gonna see if I can unwin. I like girls with big fat titties. I like girls with deep vaginas. So come on down to South Park and meet some friends of mine.
Yeah. It seems to me like the generator, it's getting him when he's talking kind of in his like lower kind of calmer sort of thing. Peterson is most fun when he's like this. This is the funnest of the Peterson. He's best when he's up like this and he's going, you'll never believe it. Oh, so good. Like, the energy of his soul is trying to get out of his throat. Right? Like, my estimation of Peterson, you guys know me, what am I going to talk about? My estimation of Peterson has definitely become that he is the very definition of a person who is well balanced all the way up his chakras and is completely caught in his throat. He's caught in his throat. That the energy of his body is flowing and it's got a good rapidity, but none of that energy is actually making it meaningfully into his brain, into his consciousness. And he's certainly not getting anything going on up here. There's certainly no meta-analysis happening whatsoever, right? And you can see that that's the case. He has zero meta-analysis, because he has to have a meta-analysis, you need to actually understand the society around you, and he doesn't. Like, he doesn't understand the society that exists around him. He views everything as like a natural hierarchy that just arises from humanity, and it's stupid. By definition, it's just dumb, right? Like, falsifiable immediately. That's my favorite part about these idiotic libertarian individualists, is that their entire fucking worldview is instantaneously falsifiable. You can do it so fucking easily. So, like, the idea that there isn't something like white privilege. Like, what in the goddamn fuck are you talking about? The Canadian Dominion Act, or the Homesteaders Act, distributed thousands of miles and thousands of kilometers of land into the hands of white British men during the colonial period for essentially free, basically nothing. They literally just had to show up and get there. And they got access to hundreds of kilometers. Each individual family got access to hundreds of miles and hundreds of kilometers of free fucking land that they just were given by the government, right? Was that a deal that was given to the indigenous people? No, that's where the land came from. Was that a deal that was given to the black population? What about the Chinese population? How about the Indian population? No, none of that. Literally, the legislation explicitly states white British men are allowed to come and get land given to them for free. So Jordan Peterson's family is a ranching family from Alberta. Where'd they get their land from? Oh, during the colonial period, they came and got huge free land, the largest government handout in the history of the nation. Nothing's ever been bigger than this, right? 360 acres of free land, they just got it. Clear cut it, used the lumber, sold the lumber, made their wealth, got a bunch of cattle, right? So the father dies. What does he do? He passes the land on to his son. And then passes it on to his son until finally you get Jordy P, who goes off to university for free, basically, to be a clinical psychologist and tell everybody how great he is and how superior he is climbing the meritocracy. Climbing the meritocracy, I did it all by myself. Look at me, Daddy. I'm certainly not the primary beneficiary of the greatest government handout in the history of the nation, telling everybody else to just do it themselves. What a loser this guy is. Like, what an enormous, fat L loser this guy is. Like, shut your fucking mouth. But that's the problem, is he's got so much energy and he's got so much stuff and everybody's looking at him now, right? Because Nazis are interesting, I guess. And shit's just coming out of his mouth and none of that energy is actually getting into his brain. Because if he actually sat down and thought about his life for 30 fucking seconds, he would realize that the only reason he was able to quote-unquote ascend his fucking meritocracy was because his dad raised him on free land that was given to him by his father, that was given to him by the fucking government for free. So that he could turn around and say, there's no such thing as white supremacy or white privilege. What are you fucking talking about, you loser? You just deranged, maniacal loser. I don't understand. But there's no such thing as systemic racism. The Indian Act exists. Shut your mouth. Like, shut your mouth. These people are embarrassing. And it's so obvious. It's so obvious that the reason why these people are being bombarded and the reason why they keep spreading their malicious, hate-filled, ignorant bigotry into the airwaves is because a small group of billionaire oligarchs want you to believe that they got to where they were because they're good people and superior and just super smart. That's it. And if you're stupid, like most people are, 60% of Americans are functionally illiterate, then you will. And you'll just be like, well, everybody says it. Everybody being the billionaires who own the media and just fill your brain with this garbage. And of course they're going to platform someone like Peterson, because Peterson's walking around being like, I'm the smartest. I'm at the top of the meritocracy because I'm the smartest. It's a convenient position for billionaires to want to have, right? Yeah, I'm at the top of this thing because I'm the smartest. Certainly not because my daddy bailed me out 1,000,000 times, right? Just fail son all the way up the chain. Ugh. Like, these people are deranged. Like, they're deranged. I feel like that's the best word to use for these people. And, like, ugh. People are just mistaking the fact that they talk a lot with intelligence. Just like, Jesus Christ, man. Look around your society. Look around your society. Like, here's a guy who literally went and debated Slavoj Žižek, right? And got completely fucking embarrassed, completely fucking rolled, completely outed as being an illiterate, clueless bum, doesn't know the subject matter, didn't do the reading, failed the assignment, got completely dunked on by like a fucking Care Bear. Somebody who's literally just talking like this the whole time about how we should probably think about the collectiveness of the world around us. Like Zizek was like the softest. He was like a bowl of pudding, just wrapping his soft hands around Jordan and just being like, Jordan, perhaps perhaps your cursory reading of the Communist Manifesto the evening before you have a debate with a communist is not sufficient to reach the task of the 150 years of communist history that has existed, and the many texts, and the many debates, and the many theories surrounding communism. Right? Like, he was so gentle with them, dude. Like, he might as well have just given him a little peck on the forehead and just been like, that's so very nice of you. I appreciate that we are even talking. Like, really? Like, really, dude? Like, Zizek was, like, so fucking nice to this guy. And Peterson was, like, he looked so goddamn stupid. And he still walks around talking as if he knows anything about the subject. That's the best part. After having this embarrassing experience, this absolute slaughter fest by a cuddly little teddy bear, right, who just lays him to the ground, he still walks around talking like he understands the subject. Like, here's what happens when you listen to people who have never had a fucking job in their life, who have never actually had a boss. Peterson's entire existence is literally just like, work for dad, like go to school, be with daddy, go to school, become an academic, go up the chain of academia, right? He's never fucking worked. He's never worked a real job. Like, and if he did, it's like the most temporary bullshit in his life. He's never experienced what it is to be completely betrayed by capital. He's never experienced being completely rejected by bosses. He's never been laid off. He's never been fucked over. He doesn't know the first fucking thing about it. He's totally fucking clueless. Why would anyone listen to this guy about anything? Like, it's how I feel about people listening to celebrities, like the Kardashians or Kanye or any of this bullshit. These people, like, they don't exist in the real world. Their opinions are just detached nonsense. Right? When Oprah says to you, you just need to believe in yourself and work hard and The Secret and all that crazy shit, why are you listening? Like, why are you fucking listening? This is a person that pulled the arm of the lottery machine of life and it came up sevens. And she turns to everybody and goes, see, it's that easy. Like, shut your mouth. It is my sincere dream that in the very near future, we literally stop paying attention to celebrities. Like, just literally we stop paying attention to these people. Straight up. Just like they post on Twitter, they get 4 likes. Like, just like, and it's their mom, their spouse, and like two real true believers. That's what I genuinely hope happens to these people. Because they're beyond irrelevant. They're just releasing yet another song that goes like, got my bitches and my hoes and my hoes and my bitches. And like nobody should give a shit about this. Like say something. Say something that even matters even a little bit. Like, I just don't give a fuck about any of these people anymore. I just don't understand why anybody should. I almost felt like Zizek was trying to win over a convert. JP is so vacuous, you might think he could be swayed. Yeah, like, the second he realized he was way in over his head, he just kind of turned into, like, Like, and he has no solutions. Like, that's the big thing about, like, when you finally get down to it with Peterson, and you finally present problems, and you're both on the same page that these are problems, right? Like, this is a problem, right? He has no solutions. That's just the hard truth about Peterson. And if you have no solutions, why should we listen to you? That's the hard truth about these guys, right? It's not enough to simply present problems. If you're not presenting solutions, then why should we listen to you? And that's the black and white truth about all of these people on the right. All of them. No solutions? Who gives a shit what you think? Who cares? Get the fuck out of here. Westerners are flesh mechs piloted by worms. Like Evangelion for worms. Content man. That's like the most fucked up thing you've said in chat. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Celebrities distract the population from the horror of their lives. I mean, that's true. Like, I mean, people live vicariously, right? People live vicariously through them. We're fascinated, and like we want to be them. We want to live that kind of life, and we want to have that kind of experience, and so we live vicariously through them. Like, that's the truth. And so how many times do I say this, right? The hardest thing to do is to deal with yourself. That's the hardest thing to do. And so if you can live a different life, like that's why video games exist, that's why movies exist, that's why books exist, that's why all of media exists, and celebrities have just kind of turned themselves into a version of the Truman Show, right? Like, Paris Hilton was sort of the first one to do it, and the first one to really commit to it. The idea that they are the experience, right? They are the experience. They're not trying to tell you a narrative. They are the narrative, and that you are just supposed to step in, and what they do, you're just in and along for the ride of their life, right? And so you're kind of on vacation when you're with them, and I get that. Like, it's pretty forgivable, right? Like, this is a fucking capitalist hellhole shithole. It's just like nothing is good. Nothing works. Everything's shitty. And so you just step in and you become Kim Kardashian for a minute, right? And you don't think about it. You're just like, because she's not thinking about it. She's just existing in the space. And the more you commit to her, the less you have to commit to yourself, which is way harder. It's way harder to actually look at yourself and say, okay, what can I do? Because, like, and this is where it gets annoying talking about Jordan Peterson, because he is right about this one thing. Like, when it comes to this, the tiny, like, he's an individualist, right? So when it comes to, like, the individual living in this individual kind of thing, he is right that it's like, it's up to you. Like, if you want to improve the area around you, it's up to you. No one else is going to do it. And nor should no one. Like, no one else should do it. You want a little space that's your own? Well, it's up to you. And no one else is going to do it. Right? But that sucks, and it's hard to do. And nobody wants to. Right? And then, of course, where Peterson begins to fail is that he fails to recognize that we've been so atomized and alienated that all we have is our little space. That's all we have. That's all anybody actually has. Right? We don't have community. We don't have culture. We don't have a collective identity. We don't have and soon we're no longer going to have unifying projects. We're not going to have things like, the United States already doesn't have a universal healthcare system, right? We're not going to have social systems. We're not going to have things that actually bind us together and unify us in meaningful ways, right? That we're just going to be people who are atomized from one another, living in tiny little spaces, and then going to work for people we never meet or give a shit about. right? That's what it's going to be. And the society that exists outside of our home is going to be completely alienated and disconnected from what our lives actually are. That we're just sacrificing ourselves to keep like a little institution alive, like a fucking A&W or something, so that we can eat food in our regular life and actually be able to survive, right? But sure, it's a fucking hellscape. Sure, it's ridiculous. Sure, the circumstances of your life are as stupid as it gets, and there's absolutely no reason for it to be structured this way, but it is. And so while you're going through it, the only thing that you can do, if you want to help yourself, is help yourself. That's it. That's it. I'm really talking this way because I'm going to clean my house tomorrow. And I'm simultaneously dreading it and hyping it. I'm literally having a friend come over so that she can sit in the corner and keep me company while I clean my house. For moral support. That's right. Because you don't need to do it alone. That's the truth. You can acknowledge all of this shit and say, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get out, and I'm going to do it, but you don't need to do it alone. You don't need to do it alone. Hardest thing to do? Ever farted and tied a rope around it? Content, man, another real gem. Just another jewel from you, bud. You're real on fire today, bud. I like that one. That's like a cartoon. In these final moments, could you explain how the working class is supposed to be a revolutionary force, but all we want to do is watch celebrities and cat videos? Yeah, it doesn't take that many people. Like, it doesn't actually take that many people. It doesn't take many people, and it doesn't take much time in the end of it all. That, like, it takes everyone's attention and everyone's willingness to participate for a small period of time. And then following that, there is a small group of people who do want to dedicate their life to the cause of doing so. Right? The vanguard. And like, if in the Soviet Union, fuck you, grinning guy. You guys get me like that sometimes, guys. I should have known better. Grinning. You piece of fucking shit. With your just jokes. I don't care that much about celebrities unless they're saying interesting shit. And the only celebrity that I think is actually saying anything interesting right now, that's actually worth listening to, is Bo Burnham. I think that when Bo Burnham talks, I think he says very interesting things. Especially about the nature of the internet and how it operates in our society. And so if you want to spend some time on a celebrity, Bo Burnham is saying some really interesting and cool shit. That tickles my brain and makes me think about things differently. In the 1974 U.S. Senate election in New Hampshire, the Republican candidate Louise Wyman won over the Democratic candidate John Durkin by just 2 votes. Dude, that's like an Uncle John like toilet reader thing. Like, I'd be sitting there and I'd open it up and I'd look at the fact and I'd be like, interesting American election facts. In the 1974 U.S. Senate election in New Hampshire, the Republican candidate Louise Wyman won over the Democratic candidate John Durkin by just 2 votes. And I'd be like, huh. And then I just move on to the next one, and I probably forgot about that. You even wrote it that way. Like it's exactly how it would be. You guys are great. You guys are great, man. I'm so happy that I do these streams. I'm so happy that we all found each other. I just need you to, I don't know what you get out of me. I don't know what you guys get out of me, but I know that you bring me a lot of joy. A lot of joy and a lot of relief. There's a lot of relief that I get from doing this with you guys, cuz it's just what a nonsense, like what a nonsense thing that we're all doing. Tomorrow is the midterm elections. Huh? How about that shit? Huh? How about that shit, right? When are the American midterm elections? Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. We are gonna watch the United States turn red like crazy. Like crazy. Is there a map? Is there a map? All I care about is the map. It's really all I care about. But like, America's gonna turn to the right super hard, dude. Like, the Biden administration has just been like a big, like, just a fart noise. Just like a, is there a fart on this thing? Is there a fart on this thing? It's definitely like, oh yeah, here we go. There you go. This has been the Biden administration. That's the Biden administration right there. My daughter and I are going to the polls together. It's the first election she can vote in. Teach her to be disappointed young. Good for you, grinning. Good for you, grinning. God damn it. God damn it. All right. We've reached the end of another one. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.